Good evening, everybody. Kevin J. Johnston here. This is the Real Estate and Money Show, episode number 42. We're going to be talking about moving your money now. Where should your money go if you are in Canada or in the United States in the Democrat-run states? Well, there's a lot to cover on that subject matter. I want to say thank you to everybody who joined us on Tuesday night show of this week, where we had Rob Anders on, former member of parliament. He stood toe-to-toe with Justin Trudeau many times in the past, talking about finance, talking about BRICS, talking about world politics. He is great to have on the show. And if you want Rob to come back, just go ahead, guys, and let us know. We do a lot of commerce now, as opposed to just raw politics. I mean, don't get me wrong, everybody. I really thoroughly enjoyed 8 years of just shouting at the top of my lungs about politics, but politics does not make money anymore at all. And because the world economy is crazy, to say the least, and because there are so many unbelievable, negative, and foolish situations worldwide, everybody out there has to consider the fact that shouting at the top of your lungs about politics is not going to change anything at all. Countries like the United Kingdom and Canada, even parts of France, definitely Australia, these countries are over. They are done. There is no real leadership to guide these countries back along the pathway that would get them to success. So the Commonwealth nations, England or United Kingdom, we'll call it, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, done. I would not invest in these countries. I would not live in these countries. I won't even visit these countries because their own citizens are being treated terribly by their own governments. And when people are being treated terribly by their governments and put in prison for political opinions and being and having their houses stolen from them and having their companies shut down because they might disagree with the government in some way, that is not how you build an economy. In fact, that is how even the rich get poor, because when you don't have the middle class and the lower class out there doing all the rudimentary jobs that the rich don't want to do, well, what happens is the rich begin to lose their dough. There's been so many historical examples of times when government overreach got involved in every facet of the citizens' lives, even as far back as the Roman Empire. And every time it's happened, things have crashed. But I have to clear something up. And I really don't like hearing this particular phrase, especially in Canada, where people say, I'm broke, I don't have a job, I'm going to lose my house, I'm destitute. But it's the same everywhere around the world. So I'm just going to stay here and do nothing and complain and fail. Well, let me tell you this. It is not the same all over the world as it is in the Commonwealth countries and as it is in the Democrat-run states in the USA. It's just not. It is not. I live in a nationalistic country right now. Panamanians are Panamanians first and everything else second. It's a wonderful thing to be around. The economy is booming here. The economy in Colombia is booming right now. Argentina is more than booming right now. And there are many African billionaires that are being created almost every year now because you've got natural resources that African countries are not afraid to exploit. Why would you not want to exploit natural resources? If you have something to offer the world, sell it to the world. Do business. That is what business is all about. And regrettably, Canada has not, it's not been a business-minded place for a very long time. Now, you do not have the capacity in Canada, for example, to go to the bank and get yourself capital to fire up a company. Because in Canada, the banks are asset-based. You can't just say, hey, here's a great business plan. This is what we're going to do. Here's the investors. Give us some money. You know, it doesn't matter how many investors you bring to a Canadian bank. You're not getting money unless you've got a house that they can steal at some point in the future. You're just not getting money. So how do you get capital in Canada? You don't, unless you've got old family money. We don't have, Canadians do not have business acumen or a real business sense because geographically speaking, there's really no way for a Canadian to talk to anybody else around the world except for to fly over the Atlantic or to fly over the Gulf of Mexico to go to different regions of the world. And Canadians don't do that. And I noticed also that there are a lot of Americans who get very comfortable in the area that they're in. Because, I mean, God bless America. Every small town has everything you could possibly need. Movie theaters, bowling alleys, bars, restaurants, grocery stores, and so on. So why would Americans pick up and leave? They truly don't. So you'll find that North Americans stay in North America because it's what they're used to, and they don't ever piece together in their own minds there could be something better, more exciting, and more profitable elsewhere in the world. Well, I'm telling you that there's profit to be made here in Panama. There's profit and opportunity in Colombia and Argentina, and somewhat in Brazil as well. Definitely in Grenada. So the idea would be for Canadians to understand, and for Americans, first we'll go to Americans. Your banking system is not as stable as you think it is. Even Bank of America, the number one bank in the country, is having severe trouble. Chase Bank will take them over in 2025 as the number one bank. I've got a feeling that Bank of America may even drop to fourth place by the end of next year. Their investments are not working. Their upper management is not working. They're so busy with diversity, equity, inclusion hirings and policies that they're not focused on making money. A bank should be making money, should not be encouraging people to dress in funny ways. So the banking system, it's not going to topple. I'm not trying to frighten you into it, but I am saying that North American banks are not focused on profit, whereas banks in Panama and Grenada and Argentina are very much focused on making as much money as is possible. They will make deals with anybody so long as it's legal. Let me give you an example here. All right, everyone? Here in Panama, there are now 7 big banks that I deal with. One of them actually does crypto and gold and silver trading. So you could actually convert your crypto in the bank to money, to cash, and vice versa. I've made a deal with the bank. I will bring Canadians, Americans, Brits, Australians, New Zealanders, Europeans. I will bring business to that bank and the other banks for that matter. And every single time a bank account gets opened up, guess what happens? I get paid. I get paid. I've tried to do this very same thing with over 60 provincially chartered banks in Canada, saying, I'm going to bring you clients because you're not federally chartered. You're not the big 6, TD, Scotiabank, BMO, Royal, and HSBC, and National. National's pretty big. So let's get clients into your bank and just cut me a check. And they all say no. No, we can't do that because, we don't understand what you're saying. We don't really want to make money in Canada here. So no, we're not going to go ahead with any of your really good ideas. So fine, I'll do business with Panamanian banks. And I will help Canadians and Americans and Brits move their money out of their countries and into the banks here, where you can get between 3 and 12% on your money. Why would I not do that? The banks here want to do deals. And anybody who wants to reach me can simply head over to my website. If Kent, if you could put it here in the chat room in TikTok, please. There's some people that would like to get a hold of me. They just have to use the contact form on my website to get there. So why would I want to deal with Canadian banks? I truly don't. The only reason that I do is because I have a lot of Canadian clients, but I don't want to deal with them because their policies are stupid. They don't pay any interest. 0.01% interest on any money you invest. That's not an investment. That's just wasting your time, because if you put money into a Canadian bank, they're going to give you 1/100th of a penny, my mistake, of interest on your money. And then they're going to charge you anywhere between $9 and $30 a month for your money to be there. So banks in Canada are not investment centers anymore. What they are is just money holding services, and they charge a lot of fees. Can a Canadian with a Canadian address open up a bank account here? Kelly, absolutely. If you go through me, 100%, and we can get it done in about 5 to 8 days. Does not take long to get that done. Oh, and I'm talking about Panama, the country, not Panama City, Florida. I have no idea why there's a Panama City in Florida, but there is, and I'm not there. I'm right beside the Panama Canal, everybody. So I'm asking everybody who's in North America right now to comprehend a couple of things. The Biden administration has absolutely annihilated the American economy, and left-wing policies have made it so that America is no longer respected by anybody around the world. The whole world is looking at what Americans are doing with the 72 genders, the bipolar people who are in office, Biden, who had dementia when he took office. They're looking at all these things, and nobody takes America seriously. Canada, after Justin Trudeau shut everyone's bank accounts down during the truckers' convoy in Ottawa, the rest of the world said, Canada is a communist place, and I'm not going to invest there. Investors took their money and left. Panama, Grenada, Brazil, they don't seize your money. Your money is safe in the banks in these countries. And the biggest deal or the biggest favor that any of you could do for yourselves is just to not have money in Canada. Everyone in Canada I speak to honestly believes that Justin Trudeau is going to step down at some point in the next year. Remember, the Canadian federal election is still one more year away. He's not going to step down. This guy is going to take as much money as he can out of the country and give it to his friends all over the world. I think the only difference, though, is that now this time, Trump's administration is going to be watching what Trudeau does. And if he does something stupid in the U.S., they may put a warrant out for him. That would be fantastic. But they can't act on it until after he's out of office. So expect Canada to be completely raked over the coals for the next year. And even if the Americans do an oil deal with Canada, which Trump is talking about right now, it's not going to change anything. Canada's oil production's at 5% of what it should be, and with an American pipeline, it might go to 7 or 8. It's not going to go to 50. There will not be this influx of 100,000 oil jobs like the 1980s in Canada. There might be 1,000 oil jobs, but that's about it. And even then, it'll still be diversity hires. So the really skilled roughnecks that know how to operate all the oil derricks and the oil wells and whatnot will not get the jobs. It's going to go to foreigners who have no skills. So what will happen is large orders for Canadian oil will get placed by the Americans, and those goals will not be met, because when you hire based on diversity, you lose. You get unskilled individuals who don't know the language, nor the culture, nor the job, and they get people killed. So, Canada, let's consider everything I'm telling you here. Why would you invest in Canada when DEI is the way things work? Did you know that 11 million people have been brought into Canada since 1994, when the Canadian government said we're not going to import any more people from European countries? We're going to go to Bangladesh, India, everything in the Middle East, Africa, China, and so on to bring people in. And these people will not have to pass the language standards. It used to be in Canada that you had to speak English or French or both fluently. Now, there's no such thing as a language test, so everyone just gets in. When you have 11 million people that don't speak the language and don't know the culture infiltrating your country, what happens? We now have 11 million people who will never really contribute to the country. Now, it's not fair to say that all of them won't, but it's fair to say that the vast majority won't. They will not contribute. So Canadians are going to be carrying 25% of the population with their tax dollars. Why would you want to do that? Why would you want to be part of a system? Okay, Bruce, I didn't say all right? But the vast majority. I don't know if you've been paying attention to what's going on immigration-wise, but there's been a very low quality type of person being brought in to Canada. And that's been very extreme over the last 5 years, to where it's been almost 1 million a year. And it's being done deliberately. And we've covered that one on my show before. I'm not here to do politics. I'm here to do money tonight. As a result of all these things, no investment, the money is leaving, mass immigration of unskilled people, and a pipeline, an oil pipeline that may, but then again, may not be opened. And if it does, oil production will only increase for between 3 and maybe an extra 5%. I doubt it. I doubt it's going to make it to 10% of its capacity. So it's time for Canadians to be a little more, I guess we'll call it selfish, and realize there's no point being a nationalist in Canada, and get your money out. Get your money out and go somewhere where you're going to be treated better and somewhere where there are business opportunities. And here in Panama, I have discovered that there are business opportunities absolutely everywhere. So what should you do with your Canadian money? And I know that's the question all of you have had, so I'm answering it tonight. And thank you for all the emails that I get asking these questions. You have to have an incredibly diverse portfolio if you want your wealth to last. If I backtrack a little bit to like the 1970s, I remember my first bank account, I was 6 years old. And it was explained to me that you put some money in the bank, and every time grandma or dad gives you a bit of an allowance, put half of it in the bank and it will earn interest. And the first time I saw a bank statement, I made money. I mean, it was something like 60 cents, but I made money. It just, whoa. So I utilized the banks to make money by putting anywhere between 20 and 50% of my paychecks away in the bank. The banks used to pay. Well, one of the biggest issues ever for people not being able to save money was the Interact card. Now you have a debit card that's tied directly to your bank account, so you can just spend what's in your bank account without having to make the trip over to the bank to withdraw money and have cash in your pocket and spend only what you had in cash. Now people are just going boop, 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 and spending it on positively everything. I'm sure the vast majority of it is stuff you don't need. So it is no longer a society where you are saving money and the bank is paying you to save money. Other countries are doing that. It certainly is not Canada. So putting money into a bank where they're just going to chip away at it with fees is pointless. Unless you get involved with banks like Coho or like Tangerine, where there are no fees because those banks do not actually have any buildings. They work through other banks. Tangerine, if I've got it right, is it CIBC or is it Scotia? They're tethered to another bank out there, and they can utilize the bank machines of those. Yeah, it's Scotia. It's got to be Scotia. And Coho has got to deal with another bank. And then there's President's Choice. They've got to deal with CIBC. So there are banks out there that don't have fees. The interest, I don't know, what would the interest be right now? 1 or 2% in these banks? It's not going to be high. They're advertising you can get 4.5% on your money, but you got to put away $100,000. Now, who's got $100,000 in Canada right now or in the Democrat states to just toss into a bank and let sit there? It would be better to invest your money as opposed to sit on it. Now, let's talk about the people that own property in Canada. If you own property in Canada, keep owning it. It's even if you leave Canada, keep the property, because you don't make money selling property. You make money hanging on to it and renting it out. It will get to the point where municipalities are going to have housing issues. And if you've got yourself a 4-bedroom house, there are deals that the province of Ontario make, for example, where they will pay people's rent directly. It's a true story. You know, there was a house I had in Mississauga. I couldn't get my spouse to agree to the terms, but I wanted to turn it into a 12-bedroom boarding house and get between $300 and $500 for each room, and then just go live somewhere else. It would have been something like $60,000 a year that we would have made on this place, because I was also going to rent out the backyard for parking, and the driveway that I had built years earlier parked 9 cars. I was going to rent out parking spaces to everyone. I even turned the garage into a 400 square foot apartment. Let's make some money. You can do these things when you're hanging on to property, and property should always be in your portfolio. Even if it's just vacant land, you can still put a trailer on it and live there in an emergency situation. The only reason that you have to have a bank account in Canada is so that you can cash checks and do email money transfers. But that's it. I wouldn't be saving money there. And in light of the fact that the government is proud that they will shut down your bank accounts if they don't like you, I just not have money there. It doesn't make any sense to do so. So have a bit of cash in the bank, but just for convenience. You absolutely want to be investing in gold and silver. Now, Canada does not do an awful lot of things right. It truly does not. but it does do gold and silver right. So if you're buying from a place like silvergoldbull.com and a couple of the other suppliers out there, Canadian gold is actually really high quality. So is the silver and the copper, and it is sought after worldwide. So you can get gold and silver. Sorry, you can get buyers for Canadian gold and silver worldwide, but you've got to deal with the experts to ship it. And that's the other thing here is how do you ship it? Well, in about 2.5, 3 months, I will be working with a lot of the shipping companies here in Panama where you could get cars and gold and silver and whatever else of value into Panama, not necessarily tariff-free, but with incredibly low tariffs. I will keep you posted on that. You'll hear me talking a lot about it come January and February. So you want to have gold and silver. But the other big one is you have to have money outside of Canada. If you're a Canadian citizen, you got to have it in the States. If you're an American, you got to have it in Panama or Grenada or Argentina, even Switzerland, although Switzerland is nowhere near as secure as it used to be. You definitely want to be putting money into places that don't have treaties with the States, like Costa Rica. But the problem is when you put money in Costa Rican accounts, it converts to colones, and colones are stable, but not most stable in the world. You got to be careful with that. If you're an American, do not invest in Canada. Please do not put your American money into Canada. You'll just lose it. It'll just be taken from you in fees and interest and penalties or whatever else they feel like adding to it. Canadians should have money in the States. Americans should have money in the States and outside of the United States, but not in Canada. Now, I am helping Canadians get bank accounts opened up with Chase Bank. I have a law firm now in Montana who's decided to work with my corporation to get my clients into American bank accounts, and it can all be done remote. There's no headache whatsoever. Just get her done, as they say. And Chase Bank, they're good. There's nothing wrong with them. They have internet banking and all the perks that come with having an American bank account. I don't think Chase is one of the bank accounts that gives you a free gun when you sign up, but it doesn't matter. Your money will still be safe in the United States. Why? As a Canadian citizen, you don't have to tell anybody you've got it down there. Right? There is absolutely no law in Canada that states that any of you in Canada who have property or money in any country except for Canada, you don't have to tell them about it. You don't have to say a word about it. Anything that you put onto a tax return in Canada is completely voluntary. So move your money to the States or buy property in the States and shut up about it. Right? Best, hire me to be your tax guy, and we will hide every asset that you've got. There's no reason for us at all to ever share with the CRA what you own. I do not want to see any of you losing what's yours. You earned it. The government didn't earn it. Remember, the government doesn't create anything. They govern. Well, not anymore. They just rule with an iron fist. What they're supposed to do is put forward laws and rules for society and regulations to keep society safe so that all of society can have an equal footing to make money. That's what it's supposed to do. But it doesn't end up being that way. It just ends up that they take absolutely everything from you. Stevie's asking a really good question here. Can you rent a property in the United States? Being a Canadian, will they know? Will the CRA know that you're renting a property? Absolutely not, unless you tell them. The Canada Revenue Agency doesn't even know you own a house until you tell them. So a lot of people, they want to write off their mortgage, which the CRA may or may not allow. But what happens here is now they know where you live. Now they know you have a house. Why would you tell them this stuff? You have to diversify your portfolio by hanging on to property that you have, but putting it into a numbered corporation so that there is nothing ever attached to your name. In Canada, with photo radar for cars and with the Canada Revenue Agency and municipalities wanting all of your money, you have to make sure that your name is not on anything. Now, actually, I'm going to bring this one up for a second here. Why would you ever want to have a license plate or a car owned by a corporation? Well, if you have 2 or 3 corporations, what you could do is have your car in Corporation A. and you got your license plate on it. And let's say, for example, you're driving on Canadian toll roads where they snap a photograph of your plate and send you a bill. So what you could do is not ever pay those tolls and not ever pay any of the fines associated with that license plate. And then the corporation can transfer the vehicle after 2 years when the plate renewal comes due, transfer it to the other corporation, pay the fees, and then go get another license plate. And then you can transfer the new license plate back in 2 years. So having a vehicle in a corporation is great, because if you get a photo radar ticket and you fight it in court, who's driving the car? They have to prove who was driving the car, by the way, and they never can. Or let's say some Karen decides to complain about the lane change you did, and the cops come to your door saying, we want to give a ticket to the person because somebody complained. Well, which car? Blah, blah, blah license plate. Oh, well, that's owned by it's a company vehicle. I have no idea who was driving it. And then they'll ask you, we'd like all the names of the possible drivers. Oh, I'm going to exercise my right to remain silent. You can call the corporation's lawyer. Close the door. I'm just saying that having your car in a corporation gives you that extra step, that extra bit of protection there. Because you always have not plausible deniability, but absolute deniability. You got to do this. Canada is collapsing fast. There is nothing that's going to save it. Even if Pierre Poilievre comes into office next year as the new prime minister, the Conservative Party of Canada, they're not very conservative people. They are quite liberal, just wearing blue suits. So don't expect there to be anything other than Canadians just being left alone for a little while. There won't be any positive policies that help the country grow. There will just be you not having to deal with nonsense for a short bit, maybe a year where no new laws get written that will impede your life, but it'll still be a dead economy. And the economy, think about this, you still have one more year of Trudeau in Canada with a completely dead economy. You can expect one more year, no matter who wins, right afterwards. And that's minimum, I might add, which is why I'm saying diversify your portfolio, get your money out of Canada, get your money into property in Canada owned by a corporation, but also, why not get some property in the States? You can buy properties cheap in the United States right now, very cheap. Get some property there. Get some property in a developing country, Brazil, Argentina, Panama. There's properties all over the place here. I just went into a building here in Panama City where they are selling apartments on a deed. You get it at the deed with it for $2,100. Ownership of it. I'm thinking, I'm going to go and talk to the owner of this building, because if they've got, let's say, a whole empty floor and they've got 10 apartments, I'll buy all 10. I'll do a deal. I'll say, here, look, $15,000 amigo. Yeah. And I'll take the whole floor. And then I'm going to hire the locals to just gut everything, start over from an empty shell and design it my own way. These are the opportunities that await you around the world. So don't ever be afraid to jump on an airplane and go and check things out. There's always something different out there that might really suit you on a personal level, but also may suit your budget. Because I would never suggest to anybody in Canada that you go buy a $700,000 condo, but I would definitely recommend that you buy a $200,000 condo in Panama in a brand new building with a rooftop pool and a gym in the basement and a restaurant across the road and so on. I definitely would recommend that. The condos that go up for sale here in Panama don't last very long. People want to own property here in Panama City, and people do not want to own condos anymore in Toronto and Vancouver. In fact, the condo market's going to crash. It's going to crash. Toronto was in the midst of building a super tall building, which is 24 floors high for every one wide, which makes it super tall and skinny, just like Billionaires Row in New York City right now. And the building's like, 12, 13 stories high? It's been like that for 2 years. They cannot get the funding nor the permits to finish this thing off. So even though they wanted to build this thing 1,200 feet high, it's just concrete. It's just a concrete frame. And that is happening to building projects all over the country. Don't buy condos in Canada. Buy a house, buy land. It's got to be concrete. And when I say concrete, it's got to be yours, because a condominium is never yours at all. The laws in other countries are considerably different. When you buy a condominium on a deed, dang it, that thing is yours. You can't just be thrown out the door because the condo corp doesn't like you. You know, you can just rake them in or take them into court and you'll rake them over the coals. You'll definitely win. So there are different ownership rules all around the world, and you got to go around the world to find these things out for yourself, to find out for you what is best for you and what rules and regulations and laws, for example, that you want governing you and what laws you don't want governing you. Let's talk about that one for a second. I left Canada a year ago because I got tired of being governed by Section 319 of the Criminal Code. Hate speech. Yeah, that's right. Hate speech. I can't speak about Canada the way I'm speaking right now, without profanity, without threats, without insults. I would still be subject to Section 319 of the Criminal Code if I was inside of Canada, which is 2 years in prison for offending somebody. If I say that I hate Canadian bankers because they're useless, that could be considered hate speech. If I tell you I hate federal banks in Canada because they're ripoff artists and mafioso, that could be considered hate speech in Canada. So it's difficult to advance your life when you're always on eggshells, wondering who's going to be offended by what you say. Panama and Costa Rica, total freedom of speech. To say whatever you want to say. The Panamanians do. There's a lot of things people in Panama don't like, and they're very vocal about it, and they shouldn't like it because the things that they don't like will interfere with their own culture. All right, there you go. In Canada also, Bill C-63 is just like that close to becoming law. You're going to go to prison for life if you offend somebody. Why would you want to expose yourself to a country that's dying to put you in prison for just having a conversation that someone else overhears or making a political statement that some loser, let's call them what they are, doesn't like? You know, the Karen epidemic is not going away anytime soon. And it's remarkable how much people want to police the speech of others. And Canada makes it incredibly easy for you to be arrested for bothering someone with what you've said. On my Facebook page, for example, today, I put out a meme. It's not really a meme. It's more of an advertisement. Is it serious? Decide for yourself. Where I just said, you know, I'm wealthy now here in Panama, and I'm looking to create more babies. I wouldn't mind having more kids so that I can train them in everything I know and have a family legacy. And it says I'm unvaxxed. So ladies, come on down and, you know, you'll never pay for anything down here. All right, there you go. I'll pay for it all. Just have my kid and raise them. Or let me be the raiser, nurture them. That's a better way to go. So what's happened in Canada is, if you go to my Facebook page, you'll see it for yourself. I had well over 100 women get angry with me and just express how mad they are that I would consider this as an offer out there. Instead of being at work, or instead of looking for investment opportunities, instead of educating themselves on how the entire structure of the country is working, they're more interested in insulting me because I'm cracking a joke on my Facebook page. That's unfortunately the Canadian mentality. Panamanians, Costa Ricans, Mexicans, they don't have time for that nonsense. They don't care what you say at all. Why would they? The opinions of people on social media should never cloud your judgment to the point where you're showing people how easily you're offended and then spend time defending your stance on social media and not being out there making money or reading books. And that is unfortunately quite sad, right? So I'm asking everybody who's watching this show, if you want to be successful, give up caring about what other people have to say. It is absolutely detrimental to you when you're putting emotional energy into the opinions of those on the internet. It doesn't matter if it's racist or sexist or classist or fattest or skinniest or whatever new terminology people are making up these days. Who cares? It does not matter what you are offended by. because you're not going to make money being offended. You've got to get control of these thought processes you have and start to focus on the reality of what is around you. For Canadians, the reality of what's around you is your country is finished. You need to move your money out of the country if you want to keep it. If you want to have wealth at all, you're never going to build wealth in Canada because, first off, everybody is broke. The rich have left, and Canadians do not have a business mindset. So take your money and invest somewhere where people do have a business mindset. Believe me, you're going to do a lot better in life when you go where you're treated right, but also when you go where the money and the investments are. And the investments are here. If you want to make a deal, like I've made a deal with banks here. I've made a deal with lawyers down here. I can help people get their pensionado residencies here in Panama. I can do it in less than 6 weeks now because I'm doing it with one of the top 5 lawyers in the country. I just called the guy up saying, look, I want to make extra money. Let's do a deal. I'm going to bring clients to you. You get them residencies, do it within 6 weeks or less, and do it smooth. Make it so that the person coming in doesn't do any paperwork. You do it all, and I'll take a cut. And the lawyer, I don't know, 12, 13 minutes, and the contract was signed. Yeah, we both wrote our own terms and conditions within this contract. We agreed, we signed it, and congratulations to me. Now I'm doing business. And I have a key to the lawyer's office. I can go in there and do business even after hours. I have a small room that's been given to me to do business with and for him whenever I want. Now, could you imagine a Canadian law firm doing that? Could you imagine proposing to a Canadian lawyer, let's work together. I'm going to sell what you've got and you're going to do the job and give me a cut? When was the last time you've ever heard a lawyer paying referral fees to anybody? It's just not going to happen. And could you imagine a lawyer liking what you do so much that they say, I have an empty office here and I'm paying for it, but you can use it. Just bring me business. The rest of the world does this. And the Argentinians, they do this. The Brazilians do this. The Colombians do this. The Chileans do this. The Panamanians do this. Countries around the world are looking to become G20, and they will do whatever it takes to get there. And when you're dealing with more modern countries like Panama and like Argentina, yeah, the countries have corruption, but the countries' economies are not based on crime. They're based on commerce. Panama's got the canal. There's 3 airports in the city here. Now tourism is starting to boom, which is fantastic, but they've got banking. And with all of those things combined, now they've got a big mouth like me and many other big mouths like me selling the country to the outside world. You can do that here and make deals. So, Canada, I can tell you that everything that I'm doing down here to make money, I can't do in Canada and make money. I've come down here and I have created my own niche market here in Panama, in a country that leaves me alone to do what I want to do. My Uber driver last month was a national boxer, 2-time Panamanian champion, but there's no money in boxing down here. So unfortunately, he's driving an Uber. But I've hired him to train me in boxing. I mean, I haven't boxed in a league since I was in my early 20s, but it's good to get a workout in with this guy. But if I wanted to, here in Panama, if I wanted to have a backyard or a warehouse boxing league or a rooftop boxing league, I could do it. I wouldn't have to get medical insurance. I wouldn't have to get clearance from the city. I wouldn't have to get permits. I could just say, yeah, you know, guys, there's a rooftop on this building here. The owner said if I give him $100, we can use the roof. Let's have a boxing league and go live on the internet, and done. And if the cops were to show up here, they would stand and watch and cheer the guys on. So it's not, the opportunities to do what you want here exist so long as you just work within the confines of the law. And the laws are extremely lax on how you can make money here in Panama. And other countries are the same. It's not just Panama. I'm saying Panama because I live here, because I walk around downtown Panama City every day, just checking it out and looking where I want to see where all the alleys are. I want to see where all the neat little restaurants are. I'm looking for the deals, the 50-cent coffee shops and the $1 cake shops and the $5 fish dinner shops and so on. So that is precisely why I'm telling you all of this, is that it's not the same around the world as it is in Canada or the Democrat states. There are opportunities. Yes, Jet, there are many all-inclusive resorts all over Panama. It just depends what you're looking for. Are you looking to be in a retirement town, close to the city, a little bit of both? You want to be on the side of a volcano? You decide for yourself. Yeah. Oh, yeah, there you go. No Kool-Aid or lemonade stands allowed in Canada. Yeah, that's been going on for quite some time. If you felt like it, and without even a permit, just take a barbecue, go somewhere and barbecue meat for people and make money. There you are. Yeah, Mverse, you are correct. If Panama becomes part of the G20, there will be certain enforcements. But if this guy is still, the current president is still in charge by the time that happens, thank you for that, then I wouldn't worry about it too much. It is the leadership here and the leadership in El Salvador and the leadership in Argentina is for the people, for investment, for banking, for jobs, for success. These governments want better. So if you want better in life, you have to recognize the fact that you're never going to get better in Canada, not for the next 50 years. It's going to be 50 years before Canada recuperates from this nonsense that's been done to it. It's going to be 50 years before cities like Portland and Seattle and now New York will ever recover or recuperate from all this left-wing nonsense. It's going to be 100 years before the United Kingdom can throw everybody out and rebuild. Australia, 50 to 100 years. New Zealand, I don't know what they're doing down there, but my God, that country is cooked. So you've got to go, if you want to make money, where the money is and where the serious lack of regulation is. I do not want to be regulated when I'm doing business. When I cook up a really good idea, all I'm going to do is call my lawyer and ask, is it legal? And if he says yes, I'm doing it. I'm doing it. I'm not going to hurt anybody, but at the same time, I'm not going to let anyone get in my way. And here in Panama, nobody would. Nobody would at all. NYCC says, I never thought that someday I would be hating my own country to a point where I wish a bomb would go off. Well, yeah, I was born in Toronto, and it was an amazing city up until about 1994, and now it sucks. And the truth is, I pray every day for someone to set a nuclear weapon off inside of it. I can't stand it. I hate it. The culture is dead. The city itself is dead. There's no economy worth talking about. Police are insane in that town, and they're stopping everybody from doing business. The leadership, have you seen the mayor of Toronto? Olivia Chow, have you been paying attention to what the mayor of Toronto's been doing? She gets kind of half naked and parades around because she wants to show the world how stupid she is. Forgive me, how sensitive she is to everything. She wants to put a tax on your land. Ready for this one? And this person is so bad at leadership and so bad with economic ideas that this mayor that you all elected wants to tax you by square foot on how much rainwater that they would be. Yeah, how much rainwater hits your property. They want to tax that. Wow. All right. Yeah, Don Macho, look, man, I was born in Toronto. I used to live in Toronto. I used to DJ in Toronto. I used to work for the Blue Jays and the Argonauts. I also, if you guys remember, for a very short period of time, the Toronto Roadrunners, the AHL club, they were there. I did some marketing for them. I did a lot of living in Toronto, and not everybody is the same, but I'm telling you that it's probably 7 out of 10 people that are in Toronto have no capacity to make the town better. They're just merely existing because the city has nothing to offer. And even though 6.5 million people live in the greater Toronto area, there's no economy. You've got 6.5 million desperate people who don't know why their lives are in the toilet and don't know what to do to make it any better. And I have the answer. Leave. Get out. If you have a property in Toronto, find some sucker to rent it from you. Make money on it. Do your due diligence on the people, but make money on it and leave. Do I think that Toronto and Brampton need to get removed? Well, yes. I mean, if we had some way to just transport both cities to the middle of the ocean, absolutely. Brampton and Toronto, all they are is cesspools of crime and despair. They got to go. Half of Vancouver is like that. I'd say about 10% of Calgary's like that. About half of Winnipeg is like that. Definitely half of Edmonton is like that. And this is all up. It's all about bad leadership, the lack of leadership, but it's also been a sense of comfort. Canadians had it too good for too long. They got really comfortable. And when crazy left-wing stupid ideas were brought into government, nobody fought it. And yes, Trudeau is to blame for some of it, but Canadians also have to take the blame because they did not fight it when there was a chance to do so. Question, would you agree that whites created the mess that we're in? I would say that left-wing whites did so, yes. Conservative whites did not. But I mean, real conservative whites did not. And left-wing maniacs like Yusra Kogali from Black Lives Matter and her brother, what's his name? Waleed, that's him. People like that, they got funding from radical leftist white groups like OPSU in the province of Ontario. OPSU is the union for all provincial employees. And Antifa, the Communist League, Black Lives Matter, they got their funding from groups just like that. So leftists, all of them, are responsible for where Canada and the United States are failing. Leftists have just destroyed the United Kingdom. It's done. Leftists have destroyed Australia. You'll notice that you've got very serious shifts to the right now in Germany, Italy, France, Poland for sure, and so on. Poland is actually throwing everybody who's not Polish out. And the Hungarians are going to be doing the same thing. We have the left wing runs every part of Canada, and they have destroyed Canada. Is there a way politically to get them out? No. No, there isn't. Is there a way to violently get them out? Absolutely. Violence will work in a situation like this, but I don't recommend it because what I would say is violence is the last possible place to go with anything. I don't use violence because I don't need to. There's so many ways to win that I don't need to break out the baseball bats. It would work, but why bring yourself to that level when you could pick up and go somewhere else where there's money? I would say violent revolutions are absolutely necessary if every country in the world was collapsing like Canada. Then yes, because then there truly is nowhere better to go, and then it becomes the absolute final option. But now you don't need to do it. Canadians just don't need to do it. Pick up and go. Talk to me. We'll get your money, convert into U.S. money, down to the United States and down to Panama if you need to do so. You can invest in Panama. You can invest in the USA. You can hold property in those countries and make money. If you already own property in Canada and you can afford to leave and keep that house and rent it out, I highly recommend doing that. If you have had any opportunities to learn how to buy and sell crypto, I would highly recommend putting it into Bitcoin and XRP. Those are the two up-and-comers. Well, it's actually not even up-and-comers. Bitcoin is the best. That's like your gold reserve. And XRP is going to be the next big one because it looks like Russia will take on XRP as a currency. If you can buy it right now for about $1.40 Canadian, I would do it. I would do it. It's going to double. By the end of next year, it's going to double, possibly even triple. All right. RD, that's pretty funny. He says, I'm not going anywhere. I have a lathe and I make baseball bats. All right. Kelly asks, do you think Panama will throw people out who aren't from there someday, like Poland? They're not going to need to because they're not letting third world trash into their country. Panamanians are letting people with money in. If you got money, you can stay. If you don't have money, you can't even come in. That's how Panama's doing it right now, because Panama wants to advance itself. And I completely and totally agree with that stance, by the way. Immigration into your own country should benefit the country first, not the person coming in first. And it used to be that way in Canada and the United States. It's no longer that way. Just checking your questions here. So yeah, Mohammed, if you're looking to move to Costa Rica, it's terribly expensive. It's 5 times the price of Panama. It's every bit as expensive as Toronto and New York. It's brutal, and I mean brutal. Panama, my grocery bill, I keep telling you all, is like $30 a week or less in a lot of cases. You know, you can buy any piece of electronic equipment down here. You've got the Panama Canal. Stuff, no, Costa Rica is not cheaper than Toronto. I wish it was, but it's not. Costa Rica is a third world country with first world pricing, and I don't dig it at all. Panama is like second world, but almost first world with third world pricing. It goes the exact opposite way. In fact, as soon as I'm done here, there is a chicken restaurant where I'm going to buy 5 pieces of fried chicken about this big for $4. And that's going to be dinner tonight and breakfast tomorrow. That's how I do things here. Okay, so RD's asking me, instead of thinking of ways to leave, why not find ways to fix the problem? Because the chance to fix the problem in Canada is gone. It's done. It's over. It can't be done. There's no political solution. The left wing runs the entire show, and you're not going to convince them of anything logical or reasonable. They do not understand commerce. They understand how to take your money through socialism, but they don't know how to invest and make money. So you got to leave, let the country die the death it needs to die, and should it begin to be rebuilt again, then go back. But you got to be away from it if you want to make money. What about Uruguay or Chile? Well, Paraguay's got tax residency where you don't pay income tax. Santiago in Chile right now is quite advanced. And Chile has that resort with the world's biggest swimming pool. The thing is huge. So there's a lot of resort jobs. There's a lot of resort life in Chile, which is very cool. But I'm not the kind of guy that wants to live on a pretty much like a reserve with bars and drinks all the time. I don't want to live that life. So for me, I'm not going to be going to Chile except to visit and hang out. Panama's where I'm staying for at least the next 2 years because the opportunity to make money here. It's way too high. Absolutely way too high. All right. I think, what about Uruguay? I haven't been. A lot of people go to Uruguay because it's incredibly cheap. Uruguay is cheaper than Medellin in Colombia. So you can do quite well. Your dollar goes a long way in Uruguay, but I've never been. So I would be the wrong guy to guide you on whether you should live in Uruguay or not. All right, everyone. So in conclusion here, we covered diverse portfolios. We covered getting your money out of Canada because you have to. And we've covered the fact that now I'm working with all these banks and lawyers down here. Get your money into Panama. We can open bank accounts for you remotely, and we can get your residency paperwork started remotely. You just have to come down here and sign everything. You know, let's get these things done. All of my money is here in Panama, where it's investable, liquidable, and safe. It ain't safe in Canada anymore, and it's not safe in the Democrat states if they're state chartered banks. You got to really be careful where your money goes. If you want to get a hold of me, it's just my name, kevinjjohnston.com. If you need some tax advice, I'm probably the best tax guy in the country right now. I'm certainly the only one that's not afraid of the CRA. I can absolutely give you a hand with your taxes whenever you wish. That's at kevinjjohnston.com. And this is the Real Estate and Money Show, which is every Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, where we talk about real estate, money, crypto, taxes, opportunities to make your life richer. We will see you same time next week. Good night. Jay Johnston here. This is the Real Estate and Money Show that runs absolutely every Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on freedomreport.ca. If you're not yet subscribed, please subscribe, please share. If you're watching on Kick over here, if you're watching on TikTok, please share, like, get it out there. If you're watching on X, please follow. Now we're so happy to see so many new people coming to us from X, and thank you, Elon Musk, for letting us back onto X. I mean, you got to remember Jack Dorsey, when he was running Twitter, they took down over 20, maybe even 25 of my Twitter accounts. Elon gave me back at least 9. So welcome from Twitter. My name is Kevin J. Johnston. I am Canada's biggest mouth. I have been podcasting full-time for 8 years, and for the last year straight, full-time, 14 to 18 hours a day, I'm helping Canadians and Americans beat all of their tax problems. I'm helping everybody who is looking for a better life move here to Panama. I am in the capital city of the country of Panama. It's a remarkable place, remarkable town. Banking is a massive industry down here. There's 52 major banks and 3 small ones. I can get anybody to get their money moved to Panama where it is safe. I love it here, but I'm so eternally grateful for all of you for showing up tonight, because we've got a few things to talk about. Namely, tonight's show is called Canada is Dead and Move On. Now, what do I mean by that? All right, everyone, as you know, I'm Canadian born. I was born in Toronto, raised right next door in the city of Mississauga. I left the country for 4 years in my 20s to go to the United States, made some pretty good money there, went back to Canada, made no money for a very long time, making killer money here in Panama, because that's what free market enterprise will do with people, or for people that have drive and ambition. They will let you grow. This country allows you to make money and just gets out of your way and doesn't even tax you. So I don't pay taxes here in Panama as a tax resident, because I'd say a good 95% of what I make is made outside of the country. And in Panama here, everybody wants to make a deal. Everybody, even the street vendors, want to make a deal. If you want to do a deal, an investment deal with bankers down here, just come on down, walk in the bank, make a deal. If you want to make a deal with lawyers here, walk in the lawyer's office, make a deal. Everybody here wants to make money. Panama wants to be a G20 country. Canada, I don't think, does want to be a G20 country. I think Canada, the leadership of it and the upper echelon, want to be like a G200 country. You know what I mean? There's not even 200 countries in the world. They want to be absolutely last place, it would seem. And for those who are making the statements that they live in Canada and they work full time and they don't have any money, that's mostly not your fault. That is the end result of left-wing policy. Left-wing politics have destroyed absolutely everything that was good about the country. So if you want to know why Canada is no longer a good place to do business, well, I'm going to cover some topics. And I'm going to do some comparisons to where I've been: Mexico, Costa Rica, Panama, and other places around the world. And I'll tell you why everybody else around the world is better, and also better than Democrat states in the US. So let's cover it. When your country has pride in its nationality, when your country has pride in its imagery, its iconography, its flag, its traditions, it'll do well. And whenever there is a thriving economic time, a nationalistic country that protects its own culture will thrive during those times. Let me give you an example. Here in Panama, they love their flag so much that there's actually a national holiday called Flag Day. Literally, it's called Flag Day, not Pride Flag Day, Flag Day, where the city is full of people partying it up. And for the entire month of November, the Panamanian flag is on every single building that you can see. And Canada used to do that. When the new Canadian flag was presented to the public in February of 1964, it's a beautiful design, but it was not defined. And even though the Canadian government did not define what this flag means, people were still very proud to fly it. I'm not anymore at all, because it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't stand for anything. There's no nationalism that you can attribute to it. There's no brand. A red maple leaf in the middle of a white square in between half of 2 red squares means what when the country's in turmoil, when the best of its citizens are leaving on a daily basis. It actually means positively nothing. So Canada has failed because we have spent all of our time allowing left-wing politics to dictate stupid terms to all of us that have ruined our national identity. So when the left-wingers came out and said, white man bad, white man's destroyed the red man, white man destroyed everything, the black man in Africa, they destroyed everything. That's the propaganda in the schools. So what happens here is national pride begins to tick down. Then we have all kinds of bad groups of people who will look at a statue of Sir John A. Macdonald, the man who built the railroad across the country, the first prime minister of Canada, who did amazing things. The guy built a country from a forest. He built a country that's like 6 time zones wide, never mind. So you've got people then saying he's bad because he did stuff. Okay, what did he do? You weren't there. I wasn't there in the 1800s. You weren't there in the 1800s. What are all of you talking about? This is the big problem with left-wing politics, that they now say that every single person that we salute for having some kind of a contribution to the building of a nation is now bad, because you're trying to hold them to the standard, the moral and ethical standards of today. They didn't have that luxury back in the day. The whole world was savage back then, including Europe. So they didn't have a choice but to be rough and tumble and sometimes cruel. That was their era. This is our era. So when you have statues being taken down, being pelted with eggs, spray painted, shattered, whatever it might be, how could you possibly have pride in your nation? And then when you make the statement as leaders that you're no longer, literally our government said, we're no longer going to bring white people into Canada. We're going to stop all immigration from Europe, and we're going to go to third world countries and bring in the least skilled individuals. And you do that from 1994 to 2024. What exactly did you think was going to happen? So 11 to 12 million people have come into Canada with absolutely no skills whatsoever, no language capacities, no desire to be part of the culture, and that has absolutely destroyed anybody's desire to do business in Canada. Our government says that for some reason we need to go to green energies. They don't work. Solar's okay, but solar's good to power your house, not the city. Wind power is junk. If you've got a couple of windmills on your roof to power your house, sure, great. But these massive windmills they're putting so much time, money, and energy into are in no way helping the power grid. They are terribly expensive to build. You got to think about all the diesel fuel that you're burning to pour the concrete to hold them in place when you mount them in the ground. And then the 20 years of maintenance you got to do on them. And then the year number 21, they're now useless, and you can't even recycle them because of the way they're built. So you'll see that there's a lot of landfill sites that dig these long trenches and just bury these windmill arms after they are done. We're told that we need to do this to save the world. It doesn't save the world. You never recoup your money on them, and you never recoup the power or the resources that go into them. But it's part of the energy policy of the country, which means that now you're buying gas at twice the price it was 10 years ago. That means you can't move goods and products and services and people across the country as efficiently as you once did, which means your economy is going to drop, which it has. So also Canadian oil production right now is at about 5% of what it should be, what it could be. That is why you need to pick up and go. There are no jobs, and there's no new jobs being created. Even now that Donald Trump has won, it doesn't mean that there will be new jobs created in Canada. In fact, Trump hates Trudeau, Trump hates left-wing politics, and Trump knows that Canada is nothing but left-wing ideologues running the country. It's all left-wing policy. Trump will put tariffs on everything Canadian, and that will signify the end of whatever is left of the Canadian economy. And I don't blame him. I don't blame him. He had to put up with Trudeau's nonsense for 4 years. And he had to put up with left-wing ideology coming out of Canada for 4 years. Why would he not want to put tariffs on everything Canadian? I mean, I would. If I were him, That's exactly what I would do. So you can count on the States, once Trump takes power in January, to start to punish Canada fiscally. It's going to happen. And there won't be anything that we, the people, can do about it, aside from decide if you want to stay in Canada and be broke, or move to the United States and get rich, or move to Panama here and get rich. You know, whatever it might be, you're not going to get wealthy in Canada when the entire country has done its very best to destroy itself. And now Trump is going to assist in that. And because, well, he should. Trump is not the president of Canada. He's the president of the United States. He's not the president of the world. He's the president of the United States. So please don't expect the Canadian economy to get better because the American economy is getting better. It's just not how it works. It actually is quite delusional thinking. And I would encourage all of you to understand the fact that when Canada, or a country, does what Canada has done to completely annihilate its own economy over the course of a decade straight, it can't recover for at least 50 years. So while you're watching this, I'm just wondering if you could maybe ask yourselves the questions. Do you see any hope for Canada's economy? Let's not talk about it as a country, but do you have any hope at all that Canada's going to recover financially? And if you can say yes, then maybe you should write down what the economic plan is that you would think that it would abide by in order to do so. And I'm telling you that it won't. So what you all have to start to do is start to analyze a few things. Ask yourselves some very important questions. How much money do I make right off the hop? Next, how much tax do I pay? In Canada, you're paying income tax to the federal government. You're paying the provincial income tax to the province that you live in. You're paying Canada Pension Plan, which will be empty before 2032, I might add, which means you're never going to get it back. And you're paying employment insurance that they're never going to give you. Even if you lose your job, you're not going to get it. So that's 4 deductions right off the bat. But then there's the goods and services tax, which could be as high as 13%, depending on which province you're in. So you get a haircut, you're paying 13% on that. You buy a car, you're paying 13% on that. You hire a lawyer to do something for you. That's not even a tangible thing. You're paying 13% on that. Then you're paying gas tax. And if you look at the way that taxes are done on gasoline in Canada, it's well over 75% of every liter of fuel. The price is tax. You know, for what purpose? If you're in the province of Ontario and you buy a used car, you got to pay tax on that. Every time the same car gets sold as a used car, you got to pay tax on it. But then there's hotel tax now all over the country, entertainment tax now all over the country. It's just, it doesn't end. So in some cases in Canada, you're paying up to 73% of your earnings in tax. Can you pay all your bills when you're losing 73% of your salary? And the answer for most of you is no, you can't. Considering the fact that right now in Toronto, people are renting out the other half of their bed. You're sharing a bedroom with a stranger and you're paying $400 for that. I mean, how awkward would that be if you're a guy my age and some guy who's 20 is renting out half of his bed for you? Wow. No, thank you. So I made the decision. I said to myself a year ago, there's no way I'll ever make money in Canada. My skill set is remarkable, but so long as I'm inside of Canada, I'm not going to be able to use it. Because in Canada, there's no freedom of speech. It's a communist country that will put you in prison for offending people, especially with Bill C-63, where they're going to put you in prison for life if you offend the radical left on Twitter or on Facebook or on Kick or anywhere else. So you're being taxed to death, you can't speak your mind, and the left wing runs every branch of government: federal, provincial, municipal, the courts, and administrative. It's all left wing. So how would a conservative dude, how would a conservative Christian or a conservative Hindu or a conservative Buddhist get a job in a far left wing country that does not even allow that to happen. And not only that, but you've got a far left-wing country where the local governments are paying Antifa types to burn Catholic and Christian and Anglican churches. The government's doing this of Canada, which means the Canadian government's going out of its way to burn what's left of Western culture within the country, which means there will not be a Western-style economy in the country because anybody who's Christian is picking up and going to actual Christian countries, Southern United States, Mexico, Panama, definitely Colombia. So there's nothing that you're going to be able to achieve in Canada if you're going to be staying there. The government of Canada went out of its way to destroy it. So I think from here on in, I'd like to ask every single one of you watching this show to go back and listen to some of the things that Justin Trudeau said. All right. When he first took office, first thing out of his mouth, he goes on Fox News and says, Canada will become the world's first post-national state. When your leader comes out and says something like that on Fox News, did Canadians just not understand what that meant? It meant, I'm going to destroy the country. It won't be a country when I'm done. He said that. He admitted it to you, to all of you. Then Trudeau came out and said that I believe that all people convicted of terror crimes around the world should be allowed to keep their Canadian citizenship because I believe that. And I'm willing to take on anyone who challenges that. That's what he said. Incredible. So your leader told you that he was going to destroy the country. Your leader told you that he was going to ruin it with unfettered immigration. And then he said that all terrorists get to keep their Canadian citizenship, which meant now the Canadian passport is worth nothing. It's not respected around the world anymore. I've been in Panama for almost 8 months. I do business with a lot of banks down here. They think Canada's a joke. They don't do business with Canadian banks. None of the 52 banks here in Panama deal with Canadian banks because Canadian banks won't do business with international banks at all. So how do you succeed in Canada? How could you possibly be someone that has a multinational corporation when your banks won't transfer money to another country so you can do business? Or your bank in Canada won't take money from the other countries you're doing business in? Why? To what avail are the banks doing this? Also in Canada, if you are caught publicly disagreeing with the left wing and the alphabet people's ideology, what happens? They debank you. Royal Bank right now is going through all of its files, looking for people who disagree with left-wing ideologies, and they are shutting down their bank accounts. I felt really horrible for the woman. She's 75 years old. When she would log into her online banking portal on Royal Bank, she was tired of seeing the pride flag there. She asked them, please take it off. She didn't want to see it. Shut down her bank account. That's right, shut it down. I don't know how it is that we allowed all this to happen, but I'm telling you, it's going to keep getting worse. It's not getting better. Don't think that because Trump's in office that Canada is going to stop being left-wing. Canada will ramp it up. Trudeau will ramp it up. The left-wingers who run the courts will ramp it up. The left-wing police forces are going to ramp it all up. They're going to go for broke. They're not doubling down. They're quadrupling down. So you can expect a lot of arrests of Canadians who disagree with that ideology. You can expect people to lose their bank accounts left, right, and center. You can expect your credit cards to just not work anymore if you disagree with left-wing ideology. Solution. I can help you move your money to the United States. We'll get you a bank account opened up. I've got a law firm that'll just walk into a bank, open the account for you. Congratulations, you've got a bank account in the United States. And then from there, I'll get you a bank account down here in Panama, and we can transfer your US dollars from the United States here to Panama. It's safe. So many people out there, they honestly talk out of their butts is what they do. Everybody wants that 15 minutes of fame. So I hear stupid stuff all the time. Well, Panama's got a treaty with Canada to cooperate with the Canada Revenue Agency and we'll give your money away. No, they don't. Where are you getting that from? I work with the banks down here. They don't. The federal government of Panama issues the charter they charter the banks down here. But once the bank is chartered, they're autonomous. The government can't walk in there and say, oh, shut this guy's bank account down. The banks won't do it. There is no way for a Canadian court order in any province to have any weight here in Panama or in the United States. The Canadian courts are a joke, and the rest of the world knows it. So put your money in the United States, put your money here in Panama. Even Grenada and the United Arab Emirates are good places to put your money. And I'll be going to all these countries and learning their banking systems as well. And there's no country in the world that's going to cooperate with Canada and give your money to the Canada Revenue Agency. And the other thing is, why in the hell would you tell the Canada Revenue Agency that you have money in a foreign country? If your accountant tells you to report that, fire the accountant, hire me. I'm not going to tell the CRA that. It's none of their business. I'll answer some questions now. So we've got, oh, thank you, Lori, for that. I appreciate the gift. Thank you very, very much. All right. Calfee is asking, is there an exit tax in Canada? No, that's on the table. They don't have time to make that law between now and the next federal election. So there's no exit tax. And you don't have to tell anybody you're leaving. If you're leaving Canada permanently, you don't have to tell anyone. Don't tell people anything. Don't tell anybody your business. Just go. That's it. Just go. All right. Having a look here at some of your questions. Kelly says, I'm going to contact you for this. Yeah. For everybody who knows my website address, could you put it in the chat room, please? If you're on Rumble, obviously you can see it right there. If you're on Kick, same thing. My name, kevinjjohnston.com. My name, again, kevinjjohnston.com. Hit the contact form, please. Let me know who you are, and we'll set up our chat and fix your tax problems. With Trump in charge, American money is going to be worth nothing. I will respectfully disagree. With Trump in charge, the American dollar will stay stable, pretty close to where it is today. It's going to be fine. You got to remember, there's a lot of countries out there that use the US dollar. Panama's one of them. And Panama's got the canal making between $4 and $40 million every hour. And it's all US dollars. Don't think for a second that the rest of the world is as eager as the media says to get rid of the US dollar. I know it's a fiat currency, but everybody wants it. They really do. And there's other countries around the world, like the cultures are different. If I was to go to a Canadian and say, hey, I want to buy your house and I'm going to give you all your payment in gold bars, a Canadian would probably do the deal because they understand the value of gold is going to be higher within just a couple of short days than the actual cash that you would get. But in Panama, they don't see it that way. They see the value in cash, in American dollars. The Costa Ricans are the same way. The Mexicans, they're not eager to get US dollars so much. They like the peso, but they'll still take it. So people will not take gold and silver as payment in Panama. They'll take your US cash, which means you have a lot of negotiation power when you've got a briefcase full of cash with you. No, American dollar is going to be fine. Oh, and someone says, nice haircut. Oh, and in Panama, this haircut was done in a shanty that was built by a guy. He just found a piece of land underneath a highway, literally underneath the highway. He ran wires to it, don't know how, because he has lights, ran a pipe to it, don't know how. He's got a sink, and I'm getting my hair cut literally with only 2 feet of sidewalk in front of me and a major road right there. And this is a very common thing. Panamanian men love to get their hair cut a lot. There's barber shops everywhere. This haircut cost $5, and I gave the guy a $2 tip, and he was ecstatic because nobody tips here. So there we go. Yeah, having a bank account in the States, just go to my website and get a hold of me. Is it hard for people under 50 to move to Panama? Nope. Get on a plane. You can stay for 6 months if you have an airline reservation showing that you're leaving within 6 months, and they'll stamp your passport. If you need an airline reservation, let me know. I can get you those for $95 US. Hang on to, it's not a ticket, it's just a reservation, but it shows that you are leaving the country. Boom, they stamp you for 6 months. You can stay for the full 6 months, and you can even overstay if you want to. If you overstay in Panama, you just have to go to the immigration office, pay a $50 fine for each month that you've stayed over your time, and then you can fly out of the country. It's really that simple. You can get yourself a condominium down here cheap. You can buy, there's apartments for sale. They're not the best, but there's apartments for sale for $2,000, $3,000, $5,000 down here. So if you're looking to live on a budget, you can certainly do so in Panama. And there are areas in the capital city of Panama where the restaurants, you can eat like a massive meal for $3 or $4 and be full for the vast majority of the day. There's all kinds of ways to live a really good life in other countries. All right, Welder Troll says, I'm coming to Panama. Come on down, man. We'll get some fish and pizza, possibly fish on pizza. They really do pizza fish or fish covered pizza well down here. You're from Canada. Is it better to go to the United States to retire? Oh, I would. Oh, absolutely, I would. Places like Montana, Idaho, anybody in Oregon who's east of the Rocky Mountains, those are all dynamite places. Cheap, good, wholesome, conservative Christian Americans. Yeah, you could do quite well there. Quite well. I would never retire in Canada. Kelly's asking, but you can't work. Well, you can't find a job where Panamanians are hiring you unless you want to make $2, $3, $4 an hour. But this is the place where you come to get wealthy. So if you have a skill set that you can sell to the Panamanians or to tourists or to the gringos who live in town, you'll do quite well. You know, somebody was asking me today, are there any gluten-free bakeries in Panama? I thought, you know, there is one, and they're right downtown, right by Trump Tower, really expensive. But I'm thinking if you were to distribute them into the middle-class neighborhoods, the gringos would absolutely buy that kind of thing. Yeah, you could make a ton of money selling that kind of thing here. Baked goods are huge in Panama. If you have something that's different or better and it's in demand, you'll sell lots. It'll be all in US dollars. And you're a foreigner, so your tax bill will be considerably lower. Are you able to become a permanent resident in Panama? Yes, Marie, very quickly, in fact. You can become a pensionado. So if you've got a pension or you have a private pension, even a private pension that you set up on your own, you can become a pensionado within 6 weeks, and you get a discount card for 25% off the vast majority of what you're going to buy. So it's really, it's really good. It's really good. Jose Ventura says many places gluten-free. Okay, Jose, I've only found one. Tell me where they are, and I'm going to go look at each and every one of them. I want to know where they are. I walk a lot in Panama. I do 10 kilometers a day. I take 2 hours every day, and I walk around Panama City to learn everything I can about it. I see a lot of bakeries. You tell me where they are, brother, and tell you what, you tell me where they are, and I'm buying the cookies, okay? That's a promise. And in fact, I just said it publicly. So, Jose, head over to my website and contact me. All right? It's a deal. Could I work my trade in Panama? Yeah, Chad, there's a lot of trades that you could do down here. I mean, something that Panama needs are underwater welders or high-end welders in general to work on the ships in the canal. That's one thing that I know about. There's a place in the north end of the country. I'm actually going to go check it out tomorrow because they want to get some marketing done. It's a school to learn how to scuba dive and weld underwater at depths of less than 40 feet. Because anything more than that, it's kind of crazy. You don't want to be doing that because you're living in a diving bell. So yeah, there's all kinds of opportunities for trades. Panamanians, they do concrete very well. They do floors perfectly. But Jose, you may not like this comment. They do not do cabinetry very well. So if you wanted to sell kitchens or build custom kitchens for gringos, you would do very well with that. Absolutely very well. All right, Jose, I'm serious. You get a hold of me, brother. All right. And for those who are sending me messages on my website, I do appreciate that. I can see Kamovi, MK, you sent me one. I will address that right after the show. So everybody, my deepest concern about Canadians, all right? I used to be a hardcore patriot in Canada when I was growing up, because in the 1980s, 1970s, 1980s, The Toronto area, the whole of Southern Ontario between Niagara Falls and the capital city in Ottawa was amazing. Every opportunity you could ever want was there. Canadians were considerably more business-minded back then. And the economy was very different. I remember in my teen years, being 18, I worked at a grocery store. I'm sure you all remember it, Sheridan Mall. It was called Food Emporium. I worked there for 2.5 years. I was making $18.50 an hour cutting vegetables. And then I would go out with my friends to any restaurant where, after working for $18.50 an hour, I could buy an entree in a restaurant with a beverage for $5. Movies were, remember that, guys? $4. Remember $4 movies? Gas was 42 cents a liter back then. You could make a lot of money, save a lot of money, spend very little, and live an incredible life. And Canada will never be that way again. I wish you all could have seen it when I was growing up in the same era. It's never going to be like that. So now, when in the 1980s, when I was making that kind of money cutting vegetables, and I was making an additional $2,000 to $5,000 a week DJing on the tips, I'm kicking myself in the ass for not understanding real estate when I was 18, 19 years of age, because I could have bought a house back then. Big 4-bedroom house back then was only $80,000. That same house now in Toronto would be $2 million. So you got to factor in that at $2 million, where people are making minimum wage less by $3 an hour than I was making in 1988, and the houses are $2 to $2.5 million. Sick. Whereas when I was making $18.50 an hour, I was kind of spending it on stupid stuff. I could have bought a house. I didn't. Here I am in Panama. Nonetheless, live and learn, as they say. Alrighty. For Ride's dad and for Kimmy, if you guys want to get a hold of me, if you need help with Canada Revenue Agency, shoot over to my website, kevinjjohnston.com. Kent, I know you're watching. Can you just type it in for everybody, please? Get a hold of me on the website. I know a lot of you send me private messages on TikTok. I just can't get to them. I can't get to them. I'm already at 18 hours a day, and I've just hired 2 ladies. And, oh, my God, we still can't get through it all. So please contact me direct. All business has to be done through my website so that I can see it a whole lot faster. All right. So for those who are in Canada, I've got some info. Tonight, I just want to say, get out of the country if you can, but do it smart. If you own a house and the house is paid off, it's not the best idea to just sell it and run. It's a much better idea for you to hang on to it, rent it out, and take the income and transfer the income to the United States or Panama or anywhere else in the world. You don't make money selling property, you make money holding on to it. Of course, you're making money on the rent and the appreciation value of the property as time goes on. Sorry for yawning, guys. I got up this morning at 4:30. I am burned out. But you do that. If you don't have a house and you're looking for a better life, then you might want to consider liquidating everything you have and getting your money into the United States, or getting your money here and just leaving Canada. Let the country crash. Within 10 years, it's going to crash. It is going to crash hard. So even though it might still look good in some places, believe me, it's not good in almost any place. Get out. And I'm saying this because not only do you have to contest with the left-wing ideology, but it has become a police state. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police, they have infinite funding, which is really ridiculous. They, just like the police in the United Kingdom right now, they are policing people's Twitter accounts, or X. They are policing people's social media. They're knocking on the doors of Canadians saying, you have to watch what you say. We're watching you. Don't you dare insult someone. We're an absolute waste of resources. But that's what these creatures are doing. And they're doing it because Justin Trudeau and the left wing are telling them to enforce left-wing ideology. I don't know if you've been watching the videos online where you see the RCMP doing this, or you see the police in the United Kingdom going to people's houses and putting on that fake, polite charade, telling you, oh, well, you're under arrest for abuse of the interconnected ways online. you're being arrested. There are over 1,000 political prisoners in the United Kingdom right now. There's over 300 in Canada right now, just for disagreeing with the government or saying something even funny online. It's sad. Why would you want to be in a country like that? I also had to point out that Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful, the big investment guy in Canada, doesn't live in Canada. He came out and said that with Trump in office, there's going to be all kinds of fantastic investment opportunities in Canada. He's wrong. There won't be. The only thing that Kevin O'Leary could invest in Canada right now and make money is oil. That would be it. But he's going to have to petition the government to allow oil production to climb to 20% from 5%. They won't do it. Not while Trudeau is in office. If Pierre Poilievre gets in next year, maybe 20. So if you are planning to invest in Canada, the only investment that is sound for you, the only investments plural that are sound for Canadians would be property if you can afford it, not a condo. Do not buy condominiums in Canada. House with land. Do that. If you can't afford that, gold and silver. But you got to be careful on how much that you buy, because if you're planning on leaving the country, you have to think about how you're going to transport it. That's the other thing. So if you're not staying in Canada, where you've got somewhere safe to store all of your gold and silver, then you can't really invest in that. So the next investment opportunity would be Bitcoin, Ethereum, and XRP. But none of that has anything to do with the Canadian economy at all. That's just blockchain currencies that you're able to buy and make money on. So that is the problem, Canada, is that there's truly nothing to invest in with any kind of high returns. Oh yes, don't forget this one. When I met with the mayor of Panama City, I made a presentation. I showed him what the bank rates are for the Toronto Dominion Bank. 0.01% interest on your money that's in your bank account with them. And he was floored, because some of the banks in Panama pay as high as 12% if you're willing to lock down $1 million at a time. Imagine making $120,000 a year US just by leaving your money in the bank. If you did that in Canada, what's that? That's $1,000 a year I think you would get if you put $1 million in a Canadian bank. So when I showed this to the mayor, he was disgusted. He laughed. And then through a translator, he said, now I know why you're in my city. Okay. Yeah. Well, that's not the only reason, but certainly. Can you book a Zoom call? Yes, you absolutely can book a Zoom call. Just head over to my website, everybody, which is kevinjjohnston.com, and you can book your call there. I'll gladly talk to you about your tax problems. The Canada Revenue Agency has become excessively hyper aggressive because they have a mandate to collect as much money as they possibly can. Yeah, so understand that the vast majority of you are getting a lot of letters now where they're saying that you owe ridiculous amounts of money, but they can't prove it. It's called an assessment. So when the Canada Revenue Agency sends you out an assessment, it's a guess. It's a wild guess. Contact me. What we'll do immediately is we will appeal their decision, which stops the tax debt from even existing. You'll get a court date about 18 months to 2 years later, and I'll argue that one in court, but then we have 2 years to fix your taxes. I'll fix them up in a couple of weeks, but you understand where I'm going with this. We want to appeal everything. Now, someone's asked me a question here. Do you think that merchants can cancel the goods and services tax in Canada for 2 months in the stores? So what that is about, everybody, is there's a 5% federal tax on everything in Canada. Yes, Randy, e-transfers are no problem whatsoever. Just hit me on my website and I'll get you all that contact info. Thank you. So the goods and services tax is a 5% federal tax, and then most of the provinces will also have their own tax on top of it. So in the province of Ontario, which holds the city of Toronto, it's 13% in total. So what he's saying is that he's going to cut 5% off of grocery bills for December. But it's not a law. He's just suggesting it, which means that retailers out there who have to reprogram all of their cash registers and reprogram all of their software, they're not going to cooperate. Why? I wouldn't cooperate. Why would they? The second that someone tells me that I have to work for free, I'm not doing it. I've had this told to me many times by the Canadian government that I've got to work for free. I've got to abide by this court order for free because some guy in a dress says so. It's not going to happen. Absolutely not. So no, retailers are not obligated to do so. And the vast majority are not going to do so. So what he said was he'll cut the GST for families because he wants votes. There we go. Well, Marlou, not all groceries are tax-free. So you got to remember, anything that's prepared food is not tax-free. Snacks are not tax-free. Beverages that come in a can or a bottle are not tax-free. There's a lot of things that are just not tax-free, unfortunately. So with him making the statement that the GST is being removed, you do make a good point, Marlou, that it's kind of a scam. It is a scam because a lot of what's in the grocery store is not taxed, but everything that is taxed, they're still not going to take the tax off it. And anything that you would buy in a convenience store is absolutely taxed the full amount because it's all considered luxury items. It was absolutely taxed. I don't believe for an instant that the toy stores in Canada are going to stop charging that 5% GST. Again, why would they? They're not obligated to do so. If the government wants you to do something, they have to get a court order to make you do it, or they have to compensate you for your time. They got to pay you. And I've been telling a lot of representatives, for example, from the Canada Revenue Agency, when they make demands of people to send in surveys or send in information, I contact the CRA and tell them, no problem, my client's fully willing to cooperate if you're willing to compensate him for his time. My client's time is worth $300 per hour, mine's worth $500 per hour. And if you're not willing to pay them, then you're not going to get what you want, right? You're not obligated to do anything the CRA says. Just don't do what they say. Contact me, hire me as your agent, and I'll get rid of that particular officer. I am very infamous. Everybody who works for the CRA knows exactly who I am, and they know that when they're talking to me, they've got to be very careful what they say because I will hold it against them and, if necessary, file criminal charges. All right? And oh wow, Cass, you pay 15% GST in Newfoundland? That's crazy. It's not even like Newfoundland has any jobs. The Canadian government shut down the fishing industry. Like, what would somebody do in Newfoundland for money? It's an island that has fishing and I think logging as industries, but nothing else. By God, I am sorry to hear that. I didn't know it was 15%. So that's horrible. But I'm not surprised. I'm disgusted, but I'm not surprised. All right. Yeah, and Newfoundland, I actually think Newfoundland made a very big mistake joining Canada in the 60s. I think they should have stayed as an independent country. I actually still have a whole bunch of Newfoundland money back in Canada. It's safe, and I'm thinking one day I might have to auction that off. It might be worth something. You never know. All right, so we got 10 minutes left in our show here, folks. I'll field any questions that everybody has. Thank you, Marie. I do appreciate that. Thank you very, very much. Let me just check the Rumble room first here, everyone. Okay. All right. Are they putting mRNA COVID vaccine in your food? Well, I don't have any evidence to support that, but I do know that they've been modifying a whole ton of foods out there. And what I can tell you is this. The food in Panama is remarkable. It is absolutely free. Sweet stuff. Don't send me messages on TikTok. Go to my website, please. Don't send on TikTok. Please go to my website. It's so much faster for me to get to it. I appreciate that. Here's what you could all do. Go to freedomreport.ca and look at my videos from October of last year and look at my skin and look at my face and even look at my hair. And then look at me today and compare and look how healthy I am today eating Panamanian food than I was a year ago eating Canadian food. I'm telling you, food is just so much better here. No, Randy, my site takes credit cards. Randy, just hit me in the email on my form on my website. I will get right back to you tonight, right after the show. Don't worry about that. Marie's asking, Kevin, are you able to stop the government from taking taxes off my pay? Yes, that is called garnishment. Good question. Let me explain something to everybody in Canada right now. The Canada Revenue Agency, when they want to steal money from you, they rely solely on Section 317 of the Excise Tax Act. Section 317 gives them permission to threaten you, but that's it. They don't have any authority beyond that. What they'll do is they'll write a letter to your bank. It's called a requirement to pay, which is not a legal or lawful order, I might add. It's not a court order. The banks don't have to give your money to the CRA, but the banks choose to. It's a choice. Your employer is not obligated to take money off your paycheck. Your employer is a coward and just does it anyway because, oh, I don't want trouble. I don't want to get audited. And if you do get audited, you hire me and I get rid of the auditor. You never cooperate with an auditor, ever. I get rid of them all the time. And I use the appropriate legalese to do so. And we use no trespassing notices to them, meaning they're blocked from coming to your house and your office forever. So Marie, all I have to do to get rid of that garnishment is I redo your taxes properly for the last 10 years. I probably can get you back about 75% of what you've paid over the last 10 years because I do your taxes properly. I don't do them like accountants do in Canada, who are all afraid of the CRA. Cowards. Never hire a coward. In Canada, ask accountants 2 questions. Number 1, if I get audited, will you cooperate with the auditor? If they say yes, get rid of them. They're a coward. They work for the CRA, not you. And then ask them, does the CRA have the power to take away your license? If they say yes, get rid of them. They're a coward. The CRA has no such power, period. You cannot deal with cowards, ever. Can you travel with gold and silver? Yes. And I'll have an answer for you how to get it into Panama in 2 weeks. I've got a meeting with a gold and silver expert down here. We're going to get that done for you. All right. So yes. So you sent me an email. You got no response. I'm in my email box right now, sweet stuff. So if you use the form on my website, please, right now, kevinjjohnston.com, it'll pop up right here in front of me. Please do that now. Okay. Yeah, banks will do what the government says. But what you can do with the banks is you can send forward a notice of liability. So it's a letter that you give preemptively to your bank manager saying, and notarize it so it's official, telling them that you do not authorize them to give money to anybody, and that includes the CRA. And if you do so, you're going to issue a fine of $1 million to them, and just serve it. You know, they don't have any way to counter that. And if they do take your money, hit them with the lawsuit because you've already got the notice of liability in there. Kevin, I'm in an emergency situation. I've been trying to get a hold of you. I need your SOS. Michelle, please go to my website right now. In fact, my assistant, Christine, is in the email box right now waiting for you. KevinJJohnston.com. Use the contact form. It's in the top right corner of the website. And I will get back to you tonight. Anybody who emails me today, in the next hour, I'm going to reply to you within that hour's time. All right, because I want to help as many people as I possibly can. Yeah, so my website, my name, KevinJJohnston.com. There we are. So please hit me up there. Kent, I know you're watching. Please put the website address in the chat for me. Greatly appreciate that. Thank you. All right, 5 minutes to go here. We'll take one last question here. Contact form gives out too much info. Randy, you got a pen? I'll give you my public email address right now. It's freedomreport.ca@gmail.com. freedomreport.ca@gmail.com. What is it that I do, Jazz? I am a tax expert. I've been studying tax law in Canada for 40 years. I've actually also begun studying tax law in the United States. And as it stands right now, if you have a corporation in the United States with IRS debt, I can completely wipe it out within 5 days. And the same thing for anybody in Canada. I can wipe out corporate debt 100% legally. It's all legal. I've been studying this stuff long enough to understand how the law works. The Canada Revenue Agency has no authority in Canada of any kind. The IRS, it's up for debate what they have in the way of authority, but we do know that they are crazy. And the IRS does carry guns. The CRA, they carry nothing because they have nothing. Hey, Hal, great to see you again, sweetheart. Thanks for coming in. Certainly do appreciate that. All right. So Jazz, you're in the UK. United Kingdom law Canadian law is based off of the United Kingdom law. You know that. So maybe there are some similarities. All right, Marie Thomas, everybody ready? Get your pens out. My public email address, freedomreport.ca@gmail.com. And there you go. So that way, if you don't want to use the contact form on my website, you can simply just email me directly. Please give me your name, phone numbers help, and give me the briefest, shortest synopsis of your tax problem. And we will address them as quickly as we can. So like I said, for the next hour, I will be answering emails to anybody who emails me tonight, and we can start you down the pathway of getting your tax problem solved, putting your money where it belongs, and that's back in your pocket. And for those who are curious, my name is Kevin J. Johnston. I'm a Canadian citizen. I live in Panama now. I have had an absolute blast. Did I just get kicked off? No, I'm good. I've had an absolute blast living here in Panama. I bought property in Panama. I do banking here in Panama. I work with some of the government here in Panama. I work with lawyers. The country is just amazing. Panama is amazing. There's $100 bills stapled to every front door. There's money everywhere. And I'm so excited to have Canadians coming down here. I have clients that have been coming down almost every week now. So I'll spend a day or two here and there and show them some of the city. Okay. Sweet stuff. Let me just check here. I got Furbank. You sent me something. And let me just check the Gmail account right now for you. Welder Troll, thank you very much. Appreciate you being here. Greatly appreciate you being here. And sweet stuff. I don't specifically have an email called Sweet Stuff, but was that you? You're the one that hit me up there? That's good. So then, all right. I'll talk to you about that right after this. Okay. Thank you, Sweet Stuff. Certainly do appreciate that. Yeah, my name is Kevin J. Johnston. I've been podcasting full-time for 8 years. The Canadian government hates my guts because I've exposed a lot of them. I'm the guy that cost Justin Trudeau $100 million back in 2017. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police broke my ribs for that, and that is okay. I am so proud of what I've done. I've studied criminal law in Canada, tax law in Canada, and civil law in Canada. And I realize that Canada is so cooked that if I want to make money and be successful, I cannot be in Canada. And I'm not going to be in Canada, but I will continue to help Canadians and Americans with all their tax problems. So please do get a hold of me. It is such a joy and such a pleasure to help everybody that I possibly can. I really do love putting money back in your pocket. My name is Kevin J. Johnston. This is the Real Estate and Money Show, which is every single Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on freedomreport.ca. We'll see you next week. Have a great night. Good evening, everybody. Kevin J. Johnston here. This is the Real Estate and Money Show that plays every single Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And tonight we're going to talk about your credit score and how to protect your credit score, how to not harm yourself, I think is more importantly what the credit score thing is all about for tonight's show. I mean, I really want to make sure that we're delving deeply into what is both right and wrong with the FICO score system that we have in Canada and the United States. I'm sure many of you have gone out to apply for loans at some point in the past, and you've probably been denied at some point in the past. I think all of us have at some point. And with being denied a loan or just an opportunity even to rent, it's soul crushing, it's heartbreaking, and typically you have no idea why you've been crushed, why you can't get that loan, why you cannot rent that place, why you can't get the car lease that you want, why you can't get a simple $500 credit card. These are things that are very important to understand. Now, I don't have all of the answers because unfortunately, FICO score algorithms are quite hidden from the public. They don't really tell us what they're basing all the positive stuff on, but I do have some of what to do. However, even though I don't have all the positive stuff that you can do, I've got the vast majority of the negative stuff that you can avoid to keep your credit score in good standing. So first things first is you want to talk about how you can find out what your credit score is. There are two major corporations in North America that people will go to check your credit score when you're applying for anything, any kind of credit whatsoever, or any kind of lease or rent. All right, that would be Equifax, EQUIFAX, Equifax.com in Canada. It's .ca. And the other one is TransUnion. Now, as far as I am concerned, these are criminal entities. What they do is they give you a credit score, but you never ask them to. Isn't that strange? They have your entire credit history that you never asked them to create. They have a credit score for you that you never asked them once to keep on. They're keeping records on your spending habits that you've never given permission for them to do. But somehow, if you've got a social security number in the States or a social insurance number in Canada, somehow they will know that you have these very things. So how do we combat this nonsense? And it is nonsense. All right. For TransUnion and for Equifax, all of you have to find out what your FICO score is. It goes, I think as low as 300, it goes all the way to 950. If you have a FICO score of 750 or higher, you're going to be pretty good at getting bank loans out there. And there is a way to get that to happen. I'll cover as much as I can in the next 52 minutes because it's only an hour show, everybody. How do you get your score? Well, Equifax and TransUnion, because of whatever deals that they've signed with the government, have to give you one free credit score of your own each year. So you go to their website, Equifax.com or .ca, TransUnion.com or .ca, and you give them your necessary identification. Don't use a driver's license. If you've got a passport, always use your passport for any form of identification in Canada. Anytime at all that you want to know or do anything for that matter, it's passport only. It's nobody's business where you live. I know that a lot of you out there don't think that you've got the right to have your driver's license go to a PO box, and many of you can't afford to have one, but maybe 10 or 20 friends should all get together and have a PO box, split the cost, and send your driver's license there, just so that there is nobody spying around your house looking for what you got. All right. And the reason I say that is as a podcaster, unfortunately, when I was podcasting in Calgary in 2021, everybody in the city knew where I lived. They all knew that there was going to be a podcast taking place there. So we always had to double lock and triple lock our doors. So we had the front door was locked. We put a steel cage over the window of the room that we used, and we installed an extra door in the hallway and put a lock on that just to buy time if anybody chose to break in. It sucks when people know where you live. So don't let anyone know where you live. But you are allowed to get yourself that free credit score, and you got to find out everything on that credit report that is harming you. Now, you have the right to object to everything on your credit score when you get it. Now, don't be silly and object to everything at the same time. What you got to do is you got to pick on small stuff. So what you got to look out for is late payments on credit cards. You got to look out for a bill you didn't pay and figure out who it was you didn't pay it to. You got to look for what's called the R9. R9 is when you just completely abandon a debt. All right. How do these things get there? Well, people that you didn't pay will put it there. Sometimes people you don't like will put it there to damage your credit score, damage your reputation. So you want to begin writing simple letters, send them registered mail to Equifax saying that you have no idea what that is. It seems like it's either erroneous or it's fraudulent. Please remove it. And they are obligated at that point to prove that there was a debt. You don't have to prove there is no debt. They have to prove that there is one. If there's going to be an R9 or any particular type of complaint on Equifax or TransUnion, you've got to demand in your letter, what is it? Who's the contract with? Where did it come from? Why is it there? And they've got to prove all that. If they can't prove it, you have to demand you deal with this in 30 days or you must remove it, and they will remove it. R9s are a bit more difficult if it's a credit card company, because obviously the credit card company will be able to prove it, but we can still argue it. You want to make sure that each time you get something off your credit score, that you send another letter in complaining about the next thing. Get your credit score to be patched up as quickly as is possible. Now, what is it based on? Well, here's a graphic, everybody. I got to put this white piece of paper here so you can see all the numbers. All right. 30% of your credit score is based on the amounts that are owed. 10% is on new credit that you acquire. 15% is the length of your credit history. I'll move the microphone here. 10% would be credit mix. It's not really defined all that well. And 35% will be your payment history. Okay, where do we begin with this? Let's say you just are starting off in life and you want to build some credit. How do you do it? Well, you would apply for a simple credit card, get yourself the minimal amount, which is a $500 credit card. They usually will just give those out to everybody. They really will. Go to a bank machine, take a cash withdrawal, hide the money somewhere. A week later, pay it off. Do it again, pay it off. Do it again, pay it off. Just keep doing this. So while you're taking cash withdrawals on your credit card, don't make purchases because you got to pay for the purchase. You're taking out cash and you're going to put it back on. Yes, you're going to pay a transaction fee, depending on the machine, $1, $5. It's going to be something like that, but you're building credit. You're building a history of paying your bills to a major creditor. Then you'll go to a bank, you'll open up a bank account, and you'll ask for a very small bank loan. Let's say $1,000. Why? Oh, it's for school and I got to buy a laptop. Oh, okay, that's fine. They'll get it to you. Don't spend it. Put the money in a hidden, hide the money somewhere that no one's going to find it. Make 3 payments and then go pay it off. Now you got to ask for $2,000. Repeat the process. Make 3 payments and then pay it off. Don't spend the money because then you have to go out and earn that money. And now what you're doing for your credit score is you're building credit score points up. And it works. Eventually you'll get a $5,000 loan, then 10, then 20. You're going to keep doing this until you actually need to borrow on something in the future that will improve your life. Like, let's say a car, a truck. Don't buy those. They depreciate. Better yet, a house. Or you could lie and say you need a loan to buy a house, but then just go ahead and buy a ton of Bitcoin. And when the Bitcoin appreciates, pay off the loan. All right? You always want to make sure that if you're building credit, that you're constantly paying these loans and these credit card debts off. And it's all about borrowing money, not spending it, and then paying it off within a timely fashion, we'll call it, within a good period of time. But what they don't tell you is, let's go back to this chart here, is that new credit is only 10%. All right. So it's only 10%, but 35% is your payment history. So if you get small amounts of credit here, like 10%, and then here, you get 35% based on your actual payment history, 45% of your credit score could be based on your decision to take money out on your credit card and pay it off, take out small bank loans, and pay them off. Amazing, isn't it? 45% of your FICO score is based on you gaming the system. Hey, I wish they told us that. They should teach us this in school, but they don't, because they want you in debt. I want everybody watching this show to make money, get bank loans, and be out of debt. That's what I want. So I'm telling you that you got to pay attention to the fact that 45% of your FICO score is going to be based on you borrowing money and paying it off. You do it forever, for your entire life, starting from the day you become an adult till the day you die. Keep building the FICO score. Now, why would you want to do this for your entire adult life? Well, you didn't hear this from me, but let's say by the time you're 60 years of age, you've had enough of society, you've had enough of human beings, you've had enough of working, you've had enough of everything. Let's say you've got a really good FICO score, like an 820. You could walk into a bank at that point and say, hey, I got an 820, I've got no R9s, I'm really good with my credit. You could take a bank loan for, let's say, 300, 350, and then go to, I don't know, Vietnam, Thailand, and live like a king. Don't bother paying it back. So what you're doing here is you're building your credit up to the point where you can just borrow a huge amount of money and retire. There you go. I'm not saying you should do that, and I'm not saying you should aspire to rip people off, but I'm saying you've got the option to do it should you decide that's the way that you want to get yourself into retirement. Why would you want to do that? Well, because Canada Pension Plan is going to be empty by 2032, so it's not like you're going to get a pension, and it's not like Social Security is going to be doing any better. I think, personally speaking, that the Social Security in the United States is going to be empty by 2040. I don't see a way to keep it afloat. It's a big Ponzi scheme, and it's running out of money. And now that all the illegals are going to be collecting it, good luck, America. So you're paying all these taxes into this system, and you're not going to benefit from it. So why not have the adult plan to have that money ready to be able to be borrowed by the time you hit that age, so you can disappear with that money? I mean, look, when a bank gives you a loan, it's not like they're taking money from the system and giving it to you. They are creating it right there on the spot. It's called fractional reserve banking. So when you get a bank loan from the bank, they put a lien on your property, but they just create the money. It just gets created from nothing. So let them create $350,000 for you when you're retiring, and then go somewhere else and spend it. Enjoy life. Live it up. You've earned it. All right. So if you've been paying into the tax system, which I don't recommend you do, I recommend you hire me to be your tax guy and not pay tax. But if you've been paying tax or paying into the system all these years, benefit from it. Benefit from it. Start planning for your retirement now by keeping your FICO score as high as you possibly can. So getting back to the FICO score, this one here, let's address the 15% of the length of your credit history. All right. Your FICO score, if you keep your FICO score in good standing through your entire adult life, if you start doing it when you're 18, by the time you get to 60, 15% of your FICO score is going to be based on the fact that you had good credit for 42 years. So keep your credit good in that time as best as you possibly can. But this is the one here that I want to warn everybody about. 30% of your FICO score is based on the amounts of money that you owe. Now, this is where I can really help you out. You got to remember that the way that the credit companies do this is that they've got hundreds of things that go against you and just a few dozen things that help you. Equifax seemingly is in the business of destroying you. Equifax seemingly is in the business of keeping you down, of not allowing you access to the capital that you need to become wealthy. That's what it seems like they're doing, which again, in my opinion, makes them criminals. But it's not like I can walk in there and just shut the company down, but I can tell you how to combat them. Knowing that 35% of your FICO score is going to be based on bad debt that you carry, here is the way to protect yourself. Let's start with basic rudimentary stuff. If you get a cell phone plan, doesn't matter with who. In the States, you got all of them. AT&T, you got Verizon, you've got Virgin, you got them all. In Canada, it's not as many. You've got Fido, Bell, Rogers. I think Cogeco just got bought by Rogers. There aren't many. It doesn't matter if you pay your cell phone bill on time for your entire adult life. That does not increase your credit score, which means that your cell phone bill should never be in your name, because I'll tell you why, is because there's a good chance at some point you're just going to forget about your bill. You're just going to forget. You didn't pay it. They report you to the credit agency, and now you've lost some FICO points. That sucks. How do you come back? Oh, let's have with this one. Let's just say they don't tell you about your roaming fee. And this has been happening with a lot of Canadian accounts. You go to Italy or you go to Germany and your phone gets turned on for just a brief second by accident. And all of a sudden, boom, $1,500 worth of roaming fees, just like that. Crazy. And if you don't pay it or you argue it, they just tag your credit score. So you can never put your cell phone in your real name, ever. You can't really do that with Bell and Rogers and the big boys because they want to see identification. But you can do it through a corporation. That is correct. You take your corporate documents in. You say, "Hi, my name is, here are the corporate documents. We want to get a corporate cell phone plan." Then they'll say, "Well, we want to secure it against you personally." I'm saying, you tell them, no, it's for the corporation. If you guys shut down this phone, we can't do business. I'm not going to secure it personally. And if you argue enough and just decide, okay, you know what, leave, then go to another cell phone dealer. They're all over the place. How many times have you seen foreigners that own cell phone shops? They'll find a plan. Somebody will do the deal. Just keep doing it until you find someone to do the deal. Make sure your cell phone plan is never in your name, ever. Okay? You get that? Doesn't matter if you're paying on time. It doesn't help your FICO score. But if you miss one bill, it hurts your FICO score. So your cell phone has got to be in that name or a company name, which you could also do. Let's say you're renting a place and you've got to pay utilities. If you've opened a corporation specifically to keep your name off of bills, then what you would do is get the internet bill and the gas bill and the electric bill and the water bill all put into, yes, you guessed it, a corporation. All of it. Even if the corporation's not making money, who cares? If you skip on a bill, it doesn't matter. They're going to bill the corporation. Just as long as your name is not listed as the director of the corporation, everything's going to be fine. Now, I do corporate courses on this. And if you want to get involved, come January 1st of next year, we're going to have a subscription-based website where for $25 a month, I'll be doing 1 or 2 shows a month that are private to members only to learn this stuff. But this is the general synopsis of how to protect your FICO score. The other thing is, if you don't want to go through the expense of registering a corporation, even if you buy a house, you can jump on the phone with all the utility companies, say, "Hi, I'm John Smith, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Richard Pryor. I'm somebody. We need the gas bill hooked up." In most provinces in Canada and about half of the states in the United States, they don't ask for identification or even clarification. They say, "Yeah, no problem. We'll send someone out. We'll get you all hooked up." Ta-da. So now the bill is in someone else's name. Why? Because if you pay your gas bill on time for 45 years, it doesn't positively benefit your FICO score. If you pay the water bill, it doesn't benefit your FICO score. If you pay your internet bill on time, it doesn't benefit your FICO score. Nothing benefits your FICO score when it comes to household utilities, but it can hurt you. So let's really go down the rabbit hole here. I'm sure all of you have maybe heard of Text Now. It allows you to have a separate phone number on your cell phone plan. All right. So you get a Text Now phone number, and that's the one that you would use for all of the bills on your house, especially if you're renting. If you're buying, it's great. I mean, do the same thing. Have the bills in a fictitious character's name and have them phone your alternate cell phone number looking for payment on the bills, because you're going to miss a bill. That's just how life works, guys. You get sick, you get in a car accident, you're going to not pay some bills. You don't want your FICO score dropping because you are incapacitated. Maybe you live with some friends and they skip out and they don't pay the bill. You got to catch up because your friends are jerks. Yeah, maybe you got a boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever it is. You guys break up. Someone doesn't pay the bill. If it's not in your name, it doesn't matter. Also, what you can do is, let's say, for argument's sake, if your gas bill, your electric bill, your whatever bills you got for your house are not in your name and you're behind on things, you can call them up and say, yeah, hey, it's John Smith. I need you to disconnect the gas and the water and everything else. I'm moving out of this house that I'm renting. No problem. They'll cut everything off. Tell them to send the final bill to your email address or text it to your phone. They will. And then you get rid of that particular text now phone number. And 2 days later, you get yourself another text now phone number or another one of the like Hush phone number. Any of these phone numbers that are voice over IPs, call them up saying, different voice. Hey, what's up? I'm Ricky Savage Michelson, and I got to get some bills. I just moved into this rental house. And the process starts all over. So you can actually get away with not paying between 3 and 4 months worth of bills, and you get a new name attached to the same residence that you are living in, and it doesn't hurt your FICO score. Right? It doesn't hurt your FICO score. If you're not going to pay bills, it doesn't hurt your FICO score. Now, I'm not encouraging all of you to not pay bills if you don't have to. I'm telling you that I understand with our rotten economy in North America right now and the severe lack of money in the money supply right now, that these are the options that you have to give yourself. So FICO score, protect it by making sure the house bills are not within it. If at all, if you can avoid anything, if you can avoid using your real name on anything, you have to avoid using your real name wherever you possibly can. The driver's license is usually where you all get screwed. When you use a driver's license as identification and it's got your home address on it, whoever wants to harm your FICO score can do it. If you absolutely have to show identification that's got your name and face on it, passport every single time. If you have an expired passport, keep it, because you can use that. If they say, we want to see 2 pieces of ID, 2 passports, and they might say, well, one of them is expired. So there is no law that says you can't show expired identification. The only problem with an expired driver's license is that you can't drive with it, but you can still use it as identification. The only problem with an expired passport is you can't fly with it, but you can still use it as identification. Any photo ID card in Canada that expires can always be used to identify you. You just can't use it for the prescribed use that it's for. So don't listen to anybody's crap when they tell you that you can't use that expired driver's license, health card, passport. You can't. It doesn't have to be updated to be valid. It's still valid. And that's the beautiful part of identification. So if your passport is going to expire, order a new one and don't take the old one in and turn that in. Whenever you get a new driver's license, anywhere in Canada, you can say, I lost it. I just lost it. Can I have another one? Keep the old one. If you're able to, have all your identification go to a post office box. Or, if they don't like to use P.O. box in the address, fine. Then go to mailboxes, etc. UPS store. Go to any of the retail mailbox places and get yourself a mailbox and use that. Because if you go to the UPS store, for example, then what they do is they actually have an address. 7400 Main Street, suite number 404. That would be your box number, but it won't say box number. It'll say suite number, which is exactly what you want to do. I can't stress enough that this is no longer the 1970s. In the 1970s and the 1980s, people would ring your doorbell to say, hey, I'm happy to see you. Like, thank you for your friendship. And that was it. There was never anything nefarious that people had in mind when they would ring your doorbell. Back in the days, people would ring your doorbell. You just open the door. Hi. Like, it was a surprise. You're excited. Someone's here. And then eventually towards the end of the 1980s and the beginning of the 1990s, every third person ringing the doorbell was some solicitor trying to sell you something. So you had to get really good at yelling at people saying, get out of here. And it's annoying to have someone, unfortunately, they are legally allowed to do so. The law says they can ring your doorbell, but they have to leave when you tell them to. I don't want to get out of my chair or stop what I'm doing to answer the door for someone I don't know. I really don't, but it is what it is. And now, 9 times out of 10, when someone knocks on the door, it's someone looking for money, or it's the cops asking you why you said that thing that time on social media, or the cops are saying, well, someone complained about your car and we're here to investigate, and so on. Yeah, it's someone looking to gain money or leverage from you or on you these days. So unfortunately, with the way the world is these days, you want to make sure that nobody has access to your front door anymore. This is not to do with your FICO score. This is just you personally protecting yourselves. If you have the means to build a cage in front of your front door these days where someone has to enter the cage to get at your front door, I strongly recommend that. It's sad that our society's crumbled that way, but it has. So you cannot let people have leverage on you. And that's the same thing with phone calls that come in. I can't stand the fact that if you have a landline in Canada, you get absolutely bombarded by people from outside the country trying to sell you something and asking questions. And unfortunately, Canadians and Americans, they're high trust societies, so people answer questions. Like, don't answer questions to people that phone you. They're fishing for information to steal your identity. Start hanging up the phone. It's regrettable, but we have to unfortunately go to cell phone plans and not have landlines, specifically to not get phone calls from solicitors. And when you do buy something online, or you give information online and someone else starts tagging your credit card to buy stuff, it can harm your FICO score. Got to be very careful who you give your information to. So please do not give your home address to anyone. Do not use your driver's license as identification for anything. If you're in a rental house, use fake names to get utility bills done. Passport only for ID for anything. And if you can avoid using your real name, avoid using your real name. And even for things like signing your kids up for sports. Yeah, you've got to give your kid's birth certificate up. But when they say that we want to see a hydro bill to prove that you are living where you say you are, no. I want all of you to change how you think. Everybody out there, you have to assume everyone out there is a scumbag and everyone out there is going to try to steal from you. And like, I went through this nonsense in the province of Ontario with the Ontario Lacrosse Association, run by 2 very animalistic savages who were harming children. And I exposed them in the book I wrote, Lacrosse is Dead, which is free on my website, by the way. And in there, what they would say is that if you were going to sign your child up to play lacrosse in my hometown, Mississauga, that you had to prove you lived in Mississauga. Why? What does it matter? What if you lived on the border in the next town over called Oakville? But to play in Oakville, you had to go 24 kilometers that way instead of 1 kilometer that way. Why would you want to waste time and fuel? Why do you have to prove this? So all of you, when you know in advance that you may have to show a bill to prove that your kid goes there, get an affidavit done instead. Write up an affidavit. Hi, my name is, I'm of this age, and this is to certify that I live in the province of Ontario and the city of Mississauga in the community of Arundel, Meadowvale, Cooksville, Heartland, whatever. I live in the city of Toronto in Scarborough. You don't have to give your address, because if you're swearing this in and having an affidavit stamped in Canada and the United States, it's just like you testified in court. They've got no choice but to accept it. And if they don't, you can do what? File a lawsuit. That is correct. The problem with the Ontario Lacrosse Association, and again, it's all in my book, is that they were taking the birth certificates and they were taking your home address and they were selling the information. They were selling your information to others. Okay. So I'm turning my Wi-Fi on, everybody. I think I'm getting some complaints that my mouth is not synced with my audio. So tell me if it gets any better there on TikTok, please. Yeah, they were selling the information. So at any given point, your FICO score can be affected by the fact that your information is being sold to others, because you never know what is going to get done with the information. You just absolutely never know. So please use affidavits when you want to tell someone, I live in a city, and don't put your home address on it. We all have to protect ourselves. So getting back to the FICO score pie chart here. All right, let's go through it again. 35%, you can see right there, 35% of it is based on your payment history. So keep that going. 15% right here is based on your length of credit history. So the older you get, the higher the score will go if you keep your credit score in good standing. 10% is based on new credit. And 30% in the red here is based on debts that you owe. And then the 10% credit mix, this would be, were you successful in getting a bank loan? If yes, how many times? Were you successful in getting a mortgage? If so, how much and how long ago, and so on. Do not apply for loans on what's called a hard credit check unless you've already done your own soft credit check. Here's the difference between the two. A soft credit check is not you applying for something. It's you checking out your own credit score. Every time your credit gets searched by somebody, it hurts your credit score, which is why you need to get your free credit score checked from Equifax and from TransUnion. You have no choice. You just have to do these things, everyone. Why do you have to do them? It's because you need to know who is trying to rip you off and who's trying to hurt you. When you get your credit score from them, you need to also look and see how many hard credit checks that there were. Because with the use of an affidavit and a letter to Equifax, you can actually write a letter to Equifax and TransUnion and tell them, hey, someone did a hard credit check and I did not authorize that. They will actually have to produce a signature showing that you authorized that credit check to be done. And if they can't produce that signature, which you probably didn't do, they have to remove that hard credit check. So a hard credit check is you asking for credit from a bank or credit from a financial institution or credit from anyone who involves themselves in lending money or a financial institution. You don't want hard credit checks there, right? The soft credit check is something that banks will do once a year on you just to see what your credit score is so they can adjust your bank rates up and down. It's criminal that they do it, but they do it. And the soft ones, they don't show up. So we got ourselves a troll. I just have to get rid of the troll, folks. Give me a second here. There you go. And blocked. There you go. Okay. So thank you for that. So you want to make sure that you are not letting them do the hard credit checks. The soft credit checks, they will do. The soft credit checks do not show up on your account. Be very careful how many hard credit checks that you yourself go for. If you go to get a bank loan, they'll do a hard credit check. If you don't get the bank loan, that shows up on your credit score, which is why you always have to start off with small bank loans. They might even ask you, do you have any collateral? Yeah, I've got this watch. I've got this gold bar, like whatever you have. You may have to actually let the bank hold on to things for you. Keeping in mind, if the bank loses it, they've got to compensate you 100% plus whatever other fees you demand from them. So yeah, secure the bank loan with gold or silver or jewelry if you need to. But start building your credit using the methods that I have talked about. Hard credit checks, you got to get rid of them all. You have to be in constant watch of your credit score and eliminate as much as you possibly can using everything at your disposal. And I've given you gold here tonight, everybody. So I'd like everyone watching the show tonight to go to Equifax and TransUnion and request your free credit score. And they will send it to you. And look at everything on there and start to comprehend how easy it is for someone to harm your credit score. So if there's any questions that anybody has, I'll go right ahead and I'll take those questions now. Throw them in the chat room here. This is to do with your FICO score, everybody. It's to do with credit scores. You want to make sure that your credit scores stay intact. Oh my God, we got trolls here tonight. I thought we got rid of all these guys. Oh man. There we go. Confirm. Sorry, guys. Occasionally we get trolls coming in here that like to badmouth me. There's a propensity for, we'll say, non-conservatives to not appreciate the fact that I'm teaching people that the conservative way of doing business and living life tends to be the more successful of the two. So for the profanity that sometimes show up in the chats, I do humbly apologize to all of you. FICO scores themselves, I've been asked many times if it's possible to remove yourself completely from the FICO score. You know, we did have a friend of mine. I helped him write a lawsuit against Equifax because what they were doing was they were interfering with his capacity to live life the way that he wanted to. He served them, but he didn't pursue it. I actually was very curious to know what the judge would have said about a FICO score company keeping your FICO score without your permission to have even opened up your FICO score account in the first place. Okay, so Nada says, renewing a mortgage, and I'm not comfortable showing my bank accounts as proof of pension income. Nada, if you wanted to, you can get a hold of me on my website, kevinjjohnston.com, and you could, I can give you the contact information of a mortgage broker who can get you into a private lending situation where you don't have to show that to anybody. Because the private lenders, they're not going to check your credit rating. They're not even going to check your income. They're just going to ask if you can secure the loan somehow, which of course would be the house that you're borrowing against. And there you go. It's probably going to be 1% above prime, but at least you'll get it guaranteed without having to prove anything to anyone. And that's what the banks do. You see, Canada has asset-based lending, which is why the economy is garbage. If you don't have $1 million, you can't borrow $1 million. That's the insanity of Canada's banking system. Whereas in the United States, everything is capital-based banking. So you go into the bank with a really good idea and they'll give you money because they're hoping to make money off of you. And American banks are really, really, really good at writing off debt and selling debt to others. All right. So that is why it's so difficult to get things done in Canada. So if you're having a difficult time getting credit in Canada, it is because the system in Canada works against you. It really does work against you. And you need to combat that by taking the advice that I've given you on tonight's show. The other thing, and this is another one, they don't talk about this, but the Canada Revenue Agency will report your lack of cooperation with them to the credit companies, Equifax and TransUnion, which is why you got to come to me to get your taxes fixed. I know that you don't want to pay taxes. I get it. And technically, it's actually illegal to collect taxes, technically, but you're not going to win that argument. If you're going to pull the free man on the land stuff, the sovereign citizen stuff, you're going to lose. So what we got to do is make sure your taxes are done properly. I can get you back a fortune. Look, if I was to redo your taxes and get you back everything you paid over the last 10 years, that's not going to affect your FICO score negatively. But if you don't do your taxes for 10 straight years and you ignore them for 10 straight years, you better believe that will affect your FICO score. When we do all your taxes at one time and we find out that you don't owe money, it's going to increase the FICO score a little bit, but not much. It's not like the CRA is going to report to the credit agencies saying, oh, yeah, now he did his taxes, remove that, please. That's not what they do. That's why you have to be in constant contact with Equifax and TransUnion to be able to reverse the damage that's being done on your credit score. So to be able to remove yourself from the whole credit score thing is not something that I have pursued yet, but I'm sure at some point we're going to be able to figure that out. I'm sure there's case law somewhere in the world where that has been done. And if anybody out there knows the case law, send it to me and I'll read it and I'll interpret it and then I'll get another interpretation on it and then we will talk about it on this show. So everyone, FICO scores, very important. And for the next 15 minutes, what I will do is I'm going to recap what I've talked about in the last 45 minutes. So for those who are joining us late here, you'll get a chance to hear what I have to say on this. And with your FICO score, it is based on the following factors. So let me just bring the see here and bring the chart back up for you. So right off the hop, 35% of it is going to be payment history. Your payment history is 35% of your FICO score, which is why you want to make sure that when you're borrowing money, you're not buying stuff. You're borrowing money for the sole purposes of building up your credit, because 10% is based on new credit that you get. So 45% of your credit score, everybody, is based on you acquiring some credit and keeping it in good standing, which is absolutely what all of you should be doing. Get what I was saying earlier in the show is you go to your bank machine with your credit card, get a credit card for $500 on it. Take money out, hold on to it, pay it off a week later. Take more money out on the credit card, cash advance, pay it off. Cash advance, pay it off. If you do this every week, that's 52 positive FICO score increases per year on just that one credit card. So once you've done that, you could apply for another credit card. So get a Visa and a MasterCard, both with $500 on them, and do the same thing, like Visa, MasterCard. Go to the bank machine, pull the cash. So if you have 2 credit cards, then that's 104 positive influences that you can have on your FICO score. Isn't that incredible? So after a year of doing that, as I said earlier in the show, you go and get a bank loan for a small amount of money, $1,000. Tell them you're buying a laptop for school. Keep the money in your room, hide it, make 3 payments, pay off the loan early. And meanwhile, while you're doing this, you're playing the credit card game. Then get a loan for $2,000. Make 3 payments, pay it off. Don't spend the money. Never spend the money. You're just taking it out for the purposes of putting it right back in and building your FICO score. Just keep getting bank loans so long as you've been building credit slowly. And then eventually you'll have yourself in a position where you could get a mortgage in the future. And let's just say you do get a mortgage in the future and you pay it off in good time and good standing and whatnot, and you keep your FICO score over 800 points. By the time you get to your 60s or 70s, you can get yourself a very big unsecured loan and just keep the money. And that's your retirement plan. So your retirement plan should not be Canada pension plan. It should not be Social Security in the States. It's going to be empty by the time anybody my age gets to retirement age to collect on it. You're never going to collect on it. Build a good FICO score. Take the money. Take a loan out when you get older. Pocket the dough. Pocket the dough. It's yours. That's why I'm encouraging all of you to build credit and keep it in good standing. When you rent a house or you buy a house, none of the utility bills in that house should ever be in your name. Just in case you forget to pay a bill, you get sick and you can't pay a bill, you lose your wallet, you can't pay a bill, you get robbed, you can't pay a bill. If it's not in your name, it doesn't matter how late you are. It's never going to affect your credit score negatively. And that's exactly how you should want it, where it never affects your score negatively, period. Cell phones should never be in your name because at some point, I promise you, you will miss a bill or you're going to go over on your data or someone's going to ghost your phone and they're going to use your data. You got a big bill and you can't pay it, never in your name. And if that means that you need to get prepaid phones, then so be it. Not a problem. And for those who want to buy a property here in Panama, everybody, get a hold of me on my website, kevinjjohnston.com. Now, how do you not use your name when you're getting bills? In Canada, it's real easy. When you phone up saying, hey, from an alternate phone number, like a hush phone number or a text now phone number. Hey, what's up? My name is Billy Joe Jim Bob Barker. and I would like to have gas in this house. I'd like to have water in this house. I'd like to have internet in this house. So my name is Billy Joe Jim Bob Barker, and the address is 123 Jason Street. Come and install it, and they will, because the utility companies, they're all greedy. They'll just come and install it. Never in your name. Never in your name. Because, and I don't like to encourage this, but I'm just saying, in case you have to book it fast, you got to move out fast, just get out, and you don't have to pay those bills. Hotmail's free, Gmail's free. Whenever they ask for an email address, give them an email address. It's like not fake. It's valid, but that's the one that you're going to use for those particular sets of bills. And that way your FICO score never gets hurt because you have missed bills or you skipped out on bills. It's a rough world out there. It's a very rough world out there. And quite frankly, with the nasty and useless service I've gotten in the past from Enbridge, Gas in Canada, from EnerSource, from all these companies, from Bell Canada for phones and whatnot, I don't care about them. These are multi-billion-dollar corporations that are multi-billion dollars corporations, not because they're good at what they do, but because they were established more than 100 years ago. So they've had 100 years to amass wealth. That's what it is. And do I care that the founders of the company may not like the fact that I'm not paying the bill? They've been dead for maybe 50 years. Who gives a crap? I don't care about massive conglomerate companies. My job is I help the little guy. I've been doing that for a very long time. And I help people retain their tax dollars, get their tax dollars back, not pay taxes and not pay bills that are going to interfere with their FICO score and their credit score in the future. And Shooker, if you haven't done your taxes in 10 years, it's okay. Get a hold of me. I'll get them all done for you at one time, and you're not going to pay a penny to the CRA. That's a promise. Get a hold of me, and we'll get them done. My name, KevinJJohnston.com. Let's wipe out your tax bill. And in fact, I prefer it when someone hasn't done their taxes for 10 years because I can get that tax return done in about 3 days. You're going to owe no money. It's going into the CRA, and that'll be the end of it. All right. So that's how it all works. Awesome. Okay. Next here, I'm just having a quick look at the questions now. All right. Moon Goddess is asking, shouldn't credit scores be irrelevant since financial institutions go into our QV accounts that are all caps? That's free man stuff, Moon Goddess, and that stuff may work if you are an absolute expert in it, but for the most part, it doesn't work, and I wouldn't count on that. What I would do is play their game in their arena, keep your FICO score as high as you possibly can, and you're going to be just fine. All right, stay away from the free man on the land people, okay, guys? They're going to hurt you, not help you. That's the big problem with the free man on the land stuff is you've got individuals who think they've got some magical solution, and they don't, using magic words, like sprinkling fairy dust on your paperwork and it goes away. It's not how it works. Do it my way. My way is I know the law. I've studied tax law for 40 years and criminal law for 20 years and civil law for 20 years. I know what I'm doing. We use the law and the rules of the land against them. Do it that way. How do you become a millionaire farmer? Not in Canada. But if you are a farmer and you contact me, the Canada Revenue Agency expects farms to lose money for at least a decade. So I can make sure your farm loses money and you don't pay tax. At least I can do that for you. So maybe on the years where you make $400,000 or $500,000 on a harvest, you can keep it all instead of paying tax. You know, that's the part I don't get is farmers feed entire cities. It's true. They do. So why would you want to put farmers in a position where they can't feed cities? I can't stand the idea of farmers being taxed. I actually think out of the one profession in the entire country that should be completely tax exempt, it would be farmers who sell to Canadian distributors to make sure that Canadians eat. I honestly do believe that, which is why if you are a farmer or you work in a farm or you know farmers, tell them to stay away from the company called FBC. It stands for Farm Business Consulting. They are crooked as hell, and they have absolutely destroyed hundreds of farms all over the country by over-reporting earnings that farmers are making. They really are a disgusting bunch of people. They suck at what they do. What they are is that they're franchise holders in taxes. They're not actually accountants, and they suck at what they do. So yeah, that's my personal view on farms. And whenever farmers contact me to do their taxes, I absolutely make sure they pay zero taxes. You know, I do about 4 times the amount of work on a farmer that I would do on a regular account, because I want to make sure that farmer stays in business. If anybody ever wonders if I'm lying to you or not, just understand the fact that when Stalin caged everybody into the Ukraine and took over all of the farms and then shut them down, what happened? Between 6 and 10 million Russians and Ukrainians starved to death. That's what happens when there's no farms. People die. So I want to make sure, and I'll be petitioning the government at some point in the future to completely keep farmers from having to pay tax. And so long as they're growing, then they should not be taxed. If they are selling anything, I don't care what it is, cucumbers, wheat, beef, they should not be paying tax on any of it. And what's really bizarre too is that there is farm fuel. So you can buy diesel fuel to run farm equipment at a much lesser price. It's probably like half. I don't know the exact amount, but it's about half of what you would pay at the pump. And then what they'll do is they put this purple dye inside of it so that if you fill your tank with it to drive around, like your pickup truck or your diesel-powered Mercedes or whatever else, sometimes you get pulled over by losers, and they are losers. These supposed traffic guys, like in the province of Ontario in Canada, they're called MTO, right? And they're the guys who couldn't pass the psychological exams to become cops. So instead, they sit in these cars that have sirens on the top and cherries, and they'll pull you over saying, well, I work with the MTO, and I'm going to take your license plate. And they actually will go inside your gas tank and pull it out and see if the gas is purple. And if it's purple, they'll write you this massive $1,000 fine for using farm fuel for your vehicle. So how do you beat that? 2 gas tanks. Right? That's what you do. You have one gas tank, which is the main one, partition it, put some regular gasoline into it that you never burn, and have a secondary fuel tank in there and use farm fuel. There you go. There's some help for you right there. All right. So keep in mind, everyone, you got to protect that FICO score. Rewatch this show, which is going to repeat all weekend now on Rumble. Just type in freedomreport.ca to watch the repeat. I'd like all of you to take the advice that I'm giving you here to make sure that you build credit and you hold on to credit so you can use your good credit score in your 60s and 70s to take out massive bank loans and never pay them back and retire with the bank's money. Because if anybody out there screws the banks in Canada or the United States, I'm a happy guy, because that's all the banks do out there is rip we, the small guy and gal, off on an absolute regular basis. That's crazy. My name is Kevin J. Johnston. Thank you very much for being here. This is the Real Estate and Money Show, where we talk about real estate, money, investment, gold, silver, and taxes. And we do it every Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. I want to say thank you all for being here. I can't wait to see you again next week, which we will do at freedomreport.ca. Have a great night. And that is correct. We do not ever want to pay income tax again in Canada. And we don't ever want to pay corporate income tax again in the United States of America. So let's talk about how to not do those two things. I just wanted to say thank you to everybody for having watched this show every single Tuesday and Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern time. We're going to be making some changes in 2024, so we may or may not be continuing the show on Thursdays, but absolutely Tuesday nights are never going to end. Those are our highest traffic nights. I'll let all of you decide. If you want the show to continue on Thursdays, you do indeed need to let me know. So we'll dive right into it. My name is Kevin J. Johnston. I am a tax expert in Canada, but I'm also learning quite rapidly, I might add, how to do taxes in the United States of America. So everybody, a couple of key points I would like to bring up. Let's start with Canada first. The Canada Revenue Agency is a collection agency which operates at arm's length from the Canadian government, which means it gets complete and total federal funding to be a criminal enterprise, pestering people for money on a daily or even minutely basis. But they're only at arm's length, which means that whenever they get a mandate to go and steal money from Canadians, from the federal government, they can always say, well, like we were told what to do. But then the federal government that's in power can say, well, wait a minute, they're a separate agency. We don't tell them what to do. They operate on their own. So which is it? Do they do what they're told? Do they not do what they're told? Well, you're counting on politicians to tell the truth, which we all know is never going to happen, especially not a guy like Justin Trudeau and all of his merry band of left-wing maniacs. So Canada Revenue Agency operates in a fashion where they can lie and say that they're not really affiliated with the federal government, but all of their funding comes from the federal government and or what they can steal in taxes from you. To repeat everything I've said for all of this year on my show, the Canada Revenue Agency is not a police force. They do not have investigators that look into your life. They do not have powers of arrest nor detention. They do not have jails they can take you to. They do not work with police departments to bring you down if you don't pay your taxes. You cannot do jail time for owing taxes. You cannot do any prison time at all for making mistakes on your taxes. If, for example, you choose just to not pay them in general ever again, you cannot do jail time for not doing your taxes. The only obligation the Canadians have in reference to anything with the CRA, the Canada Revenue Agency, is that you must do a tax return. But in Canada, it's simple. Your name and social insurance number at the top, your signature at the bottom, no numbers, not even a zero, submit it. There you go, CRA, leave me alone. Now, they will assess you. They will guess what the tax dollar amount is that they want from you. They will do that, but that is not a command to pay. It is not a lawful order. It is not a lawful instruction. There is no contract there. You don't have to pay what they assess. But what we always will do, and I apologize for the fire alarms here, what they will always do, or what we will always do, is immediately object and demand an appeal date. So you are allowed to appeal your taxes in Canada the second that you get an assessment that says that you owe tax dollars, because you don't owe tax dollars. Assessments in Canadian law are guesses. They wildly guess. So how is it that, you might ask, that they make the decision to lock your bank account? So what they'll do is the CRA's got a procedure they have to follow. Now, I don't know if the IRS follows the same procedure, but here's how it is in Canada. They will send you a letter threatening you, saying that we want you to pay your taxes, do your taxes, remit your taxes, do something with taxes. And you'll probably ignore the letter. So they make 3 phone calls. You'll probably hang up the phone on them because they're scumbags, and most of them don't speak English anyway. And then they'll send you another threatening letter, which you're probably going to ignore. So at that point, they want to get your attention, and they will take money out of your bank account. But it's not the Canada Revenue Agency that takes the money out of your bank account. It is them sending a letter to the banks. The CRA sends a letter to your bank. It's called a requirement to pay letter. It is not a lawful command. It is simply a request. And the banks always cave in and pay them. Right. So it's the bank that you have to sue. It is the bank manager that you must charge criminally, everybody. You want to make sure that you're going after the banks. We need 1 million Canadians to join forces with me for 2025 and start filing criminal charges against the banks. And then finally, the banks, when they get fed up with that, will stop obeying the Canada Revenue Agency, who never acts on court orders. They never get court orders to get your money, ever. The banks voluntarily give the money to them. So how do we charge? That's a good question. How do we file charges against the Canada Revenue Agency? It's called laying a private information. That is what we do. We lay a private information. Information is actually a noun in law in Canada. So an information is a criminal charge report in some particular way. That is what it is. So we would go to the courthouse and we will have our private information form filled out, stating the name of the CRA representative, the phone number and the fax number, and the work address of that particular CRA representative, and the criminal charges that we want to lay. Intimidation, section 423, that's 5 years in jail. Extortion can be up to 14. Criminal harassment, uttering threats, all of these charges. We can do all these things against the CRA, and it'd be fraud and theft against the bank, and then the actual lawsuit you would file against the bank would be breach of contract, probably even tort theft. So, Canada, join me in this. If your bank has taken your money without your permission and without a court order from the CRA, let's start filing criminal charges. In February, I'm going to be giving free lessons on how to file criminal charges against bank managers and CRA representatives. We need to go to war with all of these dirtbags, and they are filth and they are grime. The second that someone says, I'm entitled to your money, and they take it, they're a criminal. And quite frankly, they should be locked up. And I would like to start helping bank managers lose their jobs and start wearing handcuffs. Collectively, we need to make sure that we all do this as a society. But the biggest problem that I face as Canada's #1 tax expert is everybody thinks that they're going to go to jail if they argue with the CRA, if I give the CRA a difficult time, if I stop paying taxes and move taxes into offshore ventures, or if I move money from one corporation to another, I'm going to go to jail. Oh my God. That is what I hear. It's infuriating to be 53 years of age and be talking to other people my age who have never once done any research into the way the law really works and fear some boogeyman that doesn't even exist. We always tell our children, there's no monsters under your bed. There's no monsters in the closet. You don't need to pull the wool sheets over top of your head to protect yourself from monsters. There are no monsters. Yet all of you believe that the CRA is some monster hiding in your closet. And they're going to spring out at a moment's notice, rip off your covers, and take your money and take your house. It's not how it works. It's not how it works. So I do educate people, and I'm going to restate what I just said. The CRA does not take the money out of your bank. They tell the bank to give it to them, and the bank voluntarily gives it to the CRA. How do we get it back? Well, we have to appeal it. We got to file a lawsuit against the bank, and then we just redo your taxes. That's what I do. I immediately begin redoing your taxes. I'm going to go through every shred of paperwork that you have, and we're going to get your tax balance to zero, which means all the money they took from your bank, they got to give it back. And the second that they give it back, that is directly an admission on their part that they were not entitled to that money. Now you can charge them and sue them too. So why are we all afraid of these useless third world demons working in the CRA? 30,000 diversity hires from god-awful countries that you've never even heard of in Africa and the Middle East. They don't speak English. And that is a deliberate thing that the Canada Revenue Agency did. Because if you don't understand someone, you're going to get mad and hang up the phone. And so you should, because in Canada, we've got 2 official languages, French and English. French and English. And if you don't feel like living in a French province like Quebec or New Brunswick, you leave. You go somewhere else and speak English. We, as kids, we used to get the strap in school if we were not using grammar properly or weren't learning the language properly. So here we all are in Canada, or I'm not in Canada anymore, but all of you are in Canada, learning the language and sitting through grammar school and all of these things that you would need to learn to know the language. And now you have an onslaught of foreigners, dumb foreigners, I might add, very low intelligence quotient foreigners who hate you, hate the country, hate where they are, but somehow they're in charge of your destiny. And do you know why they're in charge of your destiny? Because you let them be in charge of your destiny. So I have been excessively vulgar and crass with some of these individuals. The Canada Revenue Agency has gotten used to the idea now that I will bluntly tell people who are not born in Canada that you have absolutely no right whatsoever to speak to a Canadian-born person in any way at all. And I always issue complaints against the ones that don't speak English and are clearly not born in Canada. And I tell them I want to speak to a white male over 40 years of age. And they always give me a white male over 40 to speak to. And you've got the right to make these demands as well. So over the course of 2025, everybody, I will be educating all of you on how to fight back. But it doesn't change the fact that you still have accountants out there who actually believe that you should pay tax. So I'll ask you this question here. Why would you go and hire an accountant who's supposedly a professional and have them say, oh, thank you for your $10,000. Oh, by the way, you owe 30 to the government. If you're coming to me to get your taxes done, you're owing zero. I don't care what you do for a living. I don't care how big your salary is. I know the law, and you're paying $0.00. That's what you're paying me for, is to be able to walk away from the CRA and keep what's there. I had a conversation which broke my heart. This gentleman is out in the city of Regina. He gave me permission to tell his story minus the company name. This guy does repair work on cars and trucks. He's actually got government contracts. This guy is repairing government trucks in the province of Saskatchewan. The man makes $2.25 million every single year, and he's losing money every single year. So we figured out why is because his tax bill on the corporation just for payroll is $400,000. Yeah. Not to mention the property tax he's got to pay for his shop. And then there's the corporate income tax and the goods and services tax and everything else that he's doing. Holy crap. The guy is paying over $1 million a year in tax. And this is why he cannot make money in his company. So what are we doing for this individual? Well, we are going to be changing the entire corporate structure, that he is no longer going to be doing his own payroll. We have another corporation that will do the payroll for him and eliminate the need for the extra expense. Now, you all don't know this in Canada. I'm sure you don't, but your employer, you need to look at everything in hundreds of percent. So let's say you're taking, I work for Sam's Burgers, and I make enough money so that you're going to take $1,000 a week off my check. So here's $1,000 a week. You have to take my $1,000 from me and give it to the government. But as the employer, you have to take $1,000 of your own money and also give it to the government. So whenever in Canada, a business is remitting taxes to the government, it's 200% of the tax bill of the individual person. I bet you didn't know that. And it's 100% they have to match on Canada Pension Plan deductions and 130% of it on employment insurance. Is that insane or what? So we have to look at percentages here. In a lot of cases, what we can do is have a company not pay 200%, but only pay 130% by moving money into a corporation that's designed specifically and only for payroll. This is what I set up now for corporations who have massive payroll debts. So if you want to make sure that you're saving 70% of the payroll money that you got to remit legally, you get a hold of me. This is what I do. I have been studying tax law for 40 years, not looking for loopholes, but actually looking for laws to take against the Canada Revenue Agency so that not only can I get wealthy doing it, and I like being wealthy, by the way, but all of you can get wealthy as well, because this guy who pays over $1 million of tax starting 2025 is never going to pay tax again on his corporation. He's going to keep an extra $1 million a year for the rest of his life. And you can do all of this legally in Canada by knowing the law, which I assure you, accountants in Canada don't know. And I assure you also, Canada Revenue Agency staff don't know. They're too stupid to know. 30,000 diversity, equity, whatever employees who don't speak English from third world junk countries are working inside the Canada Revenue Agency, which is bigger than the entire Canadian military, including the Army, Navy, and Air Force and our special forces. The CRA has 60,000 people working for them, collecting money from Canadians, and the Canadian military combined is only 55,000. Is that crazy or what, everybody? And they're doing all of this to steal money from Canadians. And if you come to me, they take nothing from you. So, Chad, you've asked this twice. Good for you. How do you get your boss to stop taking taxes off your paycheck? Beautiful question. You go to your boss and you tell him that you are now officially going to be on contract. We open up a numbered corporation for you, and then you're going to walk in your boss's office and you're going to write an invoice for the week that you've just worked. That's what you do. You tell him, I'm done with the taxation system. I want to do it myself. I can write off my car, my fuel, my computer, my food, my coffee, my new boots, my underwear, my socks, my glasses. I can write everything. You can write. So we need to get all of you to comprehend that you're never going to get back all the money that you pay in tax until the following year if I'm doing your taxes for you. It's better just to not pay them in the first place. So all of you got to start going on contract. Now, I know some of you say, but the CRA says it's illegal. You can't go on contract if you're working full-time for someone and you can't make your own hours. That is a lie. That might be a Canada Revenue Agency policy. But if you don't work for the Canada Revenue Agency, their policies do not pertain to you. Policy of a corporation is not the law of the land. So don't kill people. That's a law. Work on contract if you want, because there's no law saying that you can't. And the only time that the CRA knows that you're on contract with your employer is if you're stupid and you tell them. A lot of people get audited, and you all mistakenly believe that you have to cooperate with auditors in Canada. You hire me, and within 15 minutes, the auditor is gone for the rest of your life. They do not come back. I tell them, thank you for your time, but we are going to forego the audit. We refuse to cooperate. There's nothing in law that says that we do. And if you tell me what you're looking for, I'll do the audit for you. And they never tell me what they're looking for. So we just ignore it after we tell them that we're not doing the audit. And I just do my clients' taxes for them. But I also will issue a very serious command to everybody at the Canada Revenue Agency. We send in no trespassing notices. And of course, I sign them with my name on them. And our clients will take these no trespass notices. We fax them in and we mail them in to every address and every fax number within the CRA so that they all get it and they all know that they are not allowed to go to the client's business or home or church or gym or arena or anywhere my clients go. And if they do, 911. I think this CRA guy's here to kill me, call 911. You are allowed to be afraid of people, so you call 911. We'll also print out nice, big, 2 foot wide by 3 foot high signs banning the CRA from the property. And if the CRA even knock on the door, call 911. I got some crazy guy here trying to break into my place. Cops will come, maybe not arrest them, but you get a police report number down, and now you've got this person's face, because you're going to record everything that the CRA does, all right? You're going to record everything. You film it all. You send me the footage, and I'll broadcast the footage out forever. We all need to fight back. Canadians are broke because as it stands with the current tax structure in Canada, we are paying almost 73% of everything that we make on all of the taxes out there. Income tax, provincial income tax, Canada Pension Plan, you got EI. Then when you're leaving work, you've got the goods and services tax, which could be as high as 15% in some places in Canada on everything you buy, including haircuts, movie tickets, cars, whatever it might be. You got road tax, you got entertainment tax, you got liquor tax, you got tax on tax. And if you live in Quebec, they put tax on top of the federal tax there. So Canadians have nothing left. And what I've done is I've actually rescued 11 corporations in the province of Ontario this year alone just by taking away their income tax. They're not paying it anymore. That is how we all have to do it. Don't pay tax. Okay, Rob, good question. What if the company I work for doesn't want to pay you on contract? Well, Rob, what you can do at that point is we can write up an affidavit stating that you have issued to your boss that you no longer work set hours and that everything is not to be on a T4. So we can actually cancel the T4 in the following tax year. So the T4 goes away. They'll still deduct taxes during the year, but I'll get them back for you in April of the following year when we do it that way. Yeah, but it's time for all of us not to go and beg. Everybody screws up by saying, hey, boss, I want to go on contract. Can you go? It's no, boss, I'm going to save you $20,000 this year. You got to sell it. You got to sell it. Sell. So what you got to do, all of you, here's your homework assignment. There are free income tax calculators all over the internet. So you work out what the boss would pay you contractually at your current salary. So if it's $52,000 a year, that's $1,000 a week he's paying you. You'd be charging the goods and services tax on top of that. Work out what that's going to cost over the course of the year, and then show your boss what it's costing him to match your income tax, your Canada Pension Plan, and your EI deductions. And you'll find that in most cases, you would be saving your boss between $15,000 and $30,000 a year by you being on contract. And then if I'm your tax guy, guess what happens? You're not paying a penny of tax on any of that. So you got to sell it. So you do the math. Boss, I worked it out. I am going to save you $17,814.12 this year. Can I have 5 minutes of your time? Or better yet, I need you to give me 5 minutes of your time. Each and every one of you out there has to be a salesman for yourself in every endeavor in life. And also understand that you have got to change the way you think about a few things. I get why we all want jobs. And I've been in this boat before where I've had jobs working for people, because we think that we can improve our lives by working a 40-hour work week and saving a bit of money and so on. Well, it doesn't work that way. So when you do have a job, when you're on a salary, essentially all you're doing is you're giving up all of your dreams and you're trading your time away from your kids and your wife and your husband and whomever for a bit of money that the government's going to take, like I said, up to 73% of. Not worth it. But if you're going to do the same job on contract, now you've got entrepreneurial spirit, and now you're keeping every penny of what you make. So a lot of you out there are realizing on a $52,000 per year salary, your tax bill is probably about $18,000 to $19,000. It's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. Why would you want to give it away to anyone for that matter? Think about that. All right. What do I charge to be your tax guy? Chad, if it's simple personal tax, it's $350 Canadian per year. If it's complex personal tax, up to $1,000, but you always get a quote before I start and the price does not go up. Let me tell you a bit about my personality quirk here. If you put a bill in front of me and I have no clue what the bill is, I'm going to hand it right back to you, and I'm going to have some choice words for you. They won't be vulgar, they won't be crass, and I won't raise my voice, but I'm going to tell you, get that thing out of my face. I do not pay bills that I did not agree to pay prior to you handing the bill to me. I had a couple of friends who have done this nonsense before. You know, we all get together for a meal and they hand me the bill for their food too. And I'll ask them, did you hear me say that dinner's on me tonight? Because if I don't say I'm buying, I ain't buying. I am very clear with my money. I am very clear what I'm going to spend it on. And I negotiate everything in advance of me doing anything with anyone. And I know people don't want to talk about money until it's too late. Everybody's embarrassed to talk about money. I'm not. I'll say, hey guys, let's hit the pool hall. I'm buying the pool. You're buying the wings. Because I've probably already called the pool hall to find out what the price is per hour for pool. And I'm thinking if we play 2 hours, I got to cover $21. The wing special's 15. I'm covering the pool. John here is going to cover the wings. I'll negotiate that in advance. If I have a really good day, though, where I sign up a big client and we get paid, I'm going to call a couple of my really good friends and say, gentlemen, we're going to go and have dinner. I'm buying the big platter, which is $40, and dinner's on me. I'll get 3 pitchers of beer. I will tell people in advance what I'm doing. So there is never going to be a mistake. And I've had many of suppliers of mine where they'll add a couple of extra charges here and there. We agree that the price is going to be, let's say, $1,500, but the bill somehow is $1,800 plus tax. And they'll say, oh, there was a fuel charge and there was this charge. Yeah, well, you know, we're just going to scratch those off of there and I'll pay the $1,500. So because I hate surprise bills so much, I also hate giving you a surprise bill. Whatever we negotiate at the beginning of it, that is the price you pay. It does not go up. And if I screw up and it costs me more money in legal fees or shipping fees or whatever it might be, I'm going to eat that because that's on me for not having planned better. I have no problem accommodating people on the mistakes that I make. You're not paying for my mistakes. So I hope, Chad, that clears that up. For corporate tax for the rest of 2024, it's $1,650 per year. If it's simple, it's $2,500 if it's complex. And when I say complex, it means like there's dividends everywhere. Like 40 people got dividends, and I've got to figure out how to kill the dividend tabs and whatnot. You know, then it's higher. If it's just standard corporations, you know, 5 staff or less, it's going to be at the lower end, but you'll still get a price in advance, and that will not change. Period. All right. So Chad says, I'm going to need help with my taxes because I'm going to go on contract. Chad, I'm your guy. And Chad, if you don't have a numbered corporation right now, I'll get you one and I'll train you for an hour because you get yourself an hour consultation. And for that hour, I'm going to teach you everything you need to know about how to collect money from your employer and never remit a single solitary penny to the government for the rest of your life. And it's legal. It's all legal. That's the best part of what I do. I've been studying tax law for 40 years, criminal law for 20, civil law for 20. I can tell you everything I do is legal. And ladies and gentlemen, if I get an idea in my head, I'm thinking, yo, this is great. Who's the first person I call? My lawyer. That's it, my lawyer. And I'll just bark it out. Dude, for real. Here's the idea. Will it work? And if the lawyer comes back and says that there's even going to be a 1% chance of arrest, I don't do it. It's got to be clear or it doesn't get done. Because there's no reason in any particular way to do anything illegal with taxes. We don't need to. There's so many laws that protect us. It's absolutely unreal. Okay, beautiful. I just hit in here. I don't pay tax if I get paid on contract. Daddy, get yourself a 1-hour consultation on my website. Could everybody please put my website address up? kevinjjohnston.me. That's kevinjjohnston.me. And head on over there, Daddy, and sign up, and I'll train you on how to never pay tax on contract again for the rest of your life legally. Oh, and by the way, it's not sovereign citizen crap. Okay, that stuff is crap. That stuff's going to get you in a lot of trouble. I don't do free man on the land crap. I'm not doing any of that. We can play in their arena and win because there's more rules and laws to protect we the people from the Canada Revenue Agency than there are rules and no laws that the CRA can use to hurt us. Thank you, Johnny Boy. Appreciate that. Okay, so just checking all your questions here. Let me just check the Rumble room. And again, for those who do not know who I am, my name is Kevin J. Johnston. I was a journalist for almost 20 years in Canada. I have been infiltrating various political parties and figuring out what's going on. I've been telling the truth about Canada for a very long time. I am highly popular with conservatives in Canada. There's probably the better part of 5 million Canadians know my name because I'm very unpopular with the government of Canada and the left-wing nuts who cannot wait to insult me on the front page of every newspaper in the country, which in 2021 I made. I made the front page of everything right across the country because I was running for mayor of Calgary and I promised to put an end to all the COVID restrictions because, well, nobody could prove to me that there was a pandemic. Not one person could prove it. And the government didn't like that very much. And that is okay because I don't like them very much. I'm okay with mutual disdain and contempt. But because everybody, I have hated the Canada Revenue Agency since I was 13 years of age. You get to hire my hate to help you because hate is a more powerful motivator than love will ever be. Trust me when I say this. I've been to war zones as a journalist. I've seen the damage that hate can do. And all the damage that I do is against the CRA, not you. I help all of you damage them because they absolutely deserve it. All right, everybody. So how not to pay income tax again. There are new programs that I'm bringing forward for 2025. There are ways, and I can't discuss how it's done, but I can discuss that it can be done. You can completely, without free man on the land stuff, remove yourself from the taxation system. What we do, and it's not easy, it's extremely time consuming, but it's totally worth it, is that we can turn you, the person, into a private trust of your own. So as a private trust, you are not technically even allowed to pay tax. And we have enough case law within Canada that we stop the CRA from taking your tax money because you exist in what's called the private realm. You are a private individual. You're a private human being. You are a trust fund unto yourself, and you will never pay tax again so long as you stay within the private realm. This is what we are setting up for all of our clients come 2025. All right, everyone. So keep in mind that we will be doing that for you. Now, another thing that everyone was asking is how do we protect our houses and our cars and our money and so on. All right. Here, I've got junk all over my desk I haven't cleaned up today. So let's do this. This Bose speaker is up here. Now, we're going to come back to the Bose speaker. This little recharge station, it's black. Everything's black here. This pack of Mentos down here, this Mento, I'll do it backwards because they didn't pay me for this. They're not going to show their logo. All right. This little pack here would be a numbered corporation. We open up a numbered corporation down here. And this numbered corporation, we transfer the title of your house into this corporation here. You are not going to be the director. You are going to be 100% shareholder of your house. Why? Because we can write bylaws on the corporation that dictate that you and your spouse are 50-50 shareholders in it. And if one of you die, the shares revert to the other person and there's no probate and there's no taxes on the transfer of the house because the house has already been transferred into the numbered corporation here. All you're doing is just transferring shares, not property. Then this other pack here, we open this one up. If you've got a couple of cars in the family that actually have value, not junk from 40 years ago, but real cars, you put all your cars into the corporation and you register the plates to the corporation. Now, we do have a problem in the province of Ontario. They've got this new system coming in for 2025 where even if it's a corporate license plate, they still want someone's name and driver's license attached to it. So if you're going to be doing this in Ontario in Canada, go to Quebec or go to Manitoba and register your vehicle there. Don't register your vehicle in Ontario and put your friggin' name on that, because the cops in Canada are as corrupt as hell. And if somebody issues a complaint that your license plate did some driving the wrong way, the cops are going to come by doing an investigation and ask you, were you driving your car at 4 p.m. on this road doing this thing? If it's a corporate vehicle, all you got to do is say, look, it's a corporate vehicle. There's 10 people that drive it. I don't know. I can't really help you. But my lawyer's name and number is, and have a great night. Call my lawyer. There we are. So your vehicles in a corporation, your house in a corporation, your money in another numbered corporation. You see, in the bylaws with these corporations down here, your corporate bylaws that I'm going to write will dictate these are holding companies. They do not do business. They will not make sales. Ergo, they do not need GST numbers or PST numbers or HST numbers in Canada. So your third numbered corporation, all your money, your gold, your silver, and your crypto go there. If you care about putting crypto in a corporation. I mean, I would tell all of you to be quiet about crypto, but in case you want to, you've got 3 corporations: house, cars, money. And the bylaws on those things are going to determine what happens in the case of your death. Because, all of us are going to meet the Grim Reaper one day, except me. I want to live forever. Kind of. Now, let's find something that's not black. Here. All right. My glasses case. So we've got 3 numbered corporations here. We have up here, this is going to be another numbered corporation, but it's going to be your umbrella corporation. Also a holding company. The corporate bylaws dictate this does not do business either, and it exists for the sole purposes of owning these 3. All right? Now you've got double layer protection. And then, remember the Bose speaker earlier? The Bose speaker is going to be your family trust, and the family trust owns this corporation, which owns these corporations. All right, so this is what we're doing for people. So on top of opening up family trusts for 2025 for Canadians, we're also going to put you personally into your own trusts. And all of a sudden, you don't pay tax and you're protected from everybody, including creditors. Doesn't matter who sues you. It's not like they're going to get your house. They're not going to know that you're the shareholder of a numbered corporation that holds the house that you happen to live in. So all of you out there need to understand that the Canadian government and the Democrat Party, until Trump takes office, is at war with all of you, which means you have to go into the numbered corporation strategy with the family trust strategy, owning absolutely every corporation that you have. So then it doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter if you lip off all the time and get sued for it. Who cares? They can't take anything you have. It doesn't matter if you screw up your taxes so badly that the CRA says you owe $1 million. They can't take anything out of your family trust. They can threaten you and whatnot. If you have a bank account in your name specifically, they will definitely go after it. But once we get all of these corporate trusts open for you, then everything will be out of a corporation anyway. You can have a bank account in your name just for kicks if you want to, but you don't need it because you can do everything through these numbered corporations, which is precisely what I recommend for all of you. Nuremberg says they took every penny from my account once. Yes, they did, but it wasn't the CRA. It was the bank that gave it to them. And the way to get your money back, if they did that to you within the last 10 years, is we can redo your taxes for the last 10 years, bring your tax bill to 0 under a private trust. All your money comes back, including what they took. And you can still sue the bank. Now, I want to talk about employers here for a second, because if your employer is garnishing your wages on behalf of the CRA, they're breaking the law. And I'm going to explain a few things on this. First off, when I have a company, and currently I've got 4 staff, and I can tell you right now, without them, there is no company. This is how it works. I can't do everything. Eventually, my corporation that does taxes will probably have a team of 100 people. And those 100 people will be making me money. I'll make sure that their paychecks are on time. I'll make sure that if they have major medical issues, that we get them dealt with. If they have family issues, we get them covered, and so on. Because staff who are well trained by the owner, me in this case, are an asset. They're absolutely an asset. And don't think for a second that I'm going to let anybody out there mess with my assets. You're not stealing my car, and you're not going to be beating up on my staff. So if the CRA was to come to me saying, we want you to garnish the wages of one of your staff, I'm going to say no. And I'll tell them, sue me. Let's duke this out in the courts, because I'm going to protect my staff. But your employers don't do that, everybody. You know what they say? I don't want to get audited. I don't want to go to jail. That's what Canadians are morons. They're so stupid sometimes. But that's what they say. So your employer will just give in and garnish your wages. You can sue the crap out of your employer for that. And we're going to be doing that for a client of mine coming very, very soon. They're not going to be happy about it, but too bad. Because here's what happened. An accountant did my client's taxes wrong. And the CRA said that he owed $30,000, which he didn't. But they sent a letter to his employer, and the employer didn't even speak to my client about it. They just garnished his wages and started giving away half the guy's paycheck to the CRA. I sent a letter in because I was then retained, and I told them that we are redoing the taxes now, and we have invoked Clause 7 of the Taxpayers' Bill of Rights. We have objected, which means these dollar values are in dispute, and you'd better start giving my client back his full paycheck. Should you not, we will take legal action. I don't use the word may. I said will take legal action. So we then redid his taxes. We went back 7 years. Guess what? He doesn't owe money. Guess what? The Canada Revenue Agency owes him money. They got everything wrong. Guess what? He's getting a check back of over $40,000. Guess what else? The employer, after I showed them the taxes are done, he's getting money back, discontinue immediately the garnishment. No, we can't do that until the CRA says that we can do it. No problem. So Monday, we are going to be sending in what's called a structured settlement letter. We're going to tell them flat out, we're suing you for $2.5 million for breach of trust and breach of contract. That's right. Breach of trust. That's a big one. And then we'll tell them, but we'll settle out of court for $50,000, which will cover all the pain and suffering and all the money you took and all the interest that was lost and all the aggravation. And we will sign a non-disclosure agreement saying that we will not talk about it, we will not name your institution, and we won't embarrass you publicly. Now, in the United States of America, a company would look at that and say, geez, they want to sue us for over $2 million and they only want $50K and they'll sign an NDA? Pay them. That's how Americans see it. Canadians, well, he threatened to sue me, so let's just have him sue me. That's how Canadians do things. Okay, no problem. But the NDA is now off the table completely. Now we go public, and now we're going to garner as much support from my client as we possibly can. And I might even ask my client, hey, should I get onto my show and have my entire client base write really bad reviews about your boss? I mean, I'm okay. It's childish. Yes, it's very childish, but that's the power of media. The Canadians are really stupid that way. They really do not understand that when someone says, I'm suing you for $2.5 million, but you can buy yourself out of it for $50K because you made a mistake. Canadians don't understand that they made the mistake, and they don't understand they're going to lose in court. They just get their backs. Fine, sue me then. Like, this is not grade 6 hopscotch. This is not kindergarten sandbox fights. This is real money because these are real people's lives. And when you are an employer, especially in Canada, and you're garnishing your wages, you are interfering with your capacity to have your staff trust you. Your staff members should be organizing walkouts because you're cooperating with the CRA and you don't legally have to do so. Let me tell you what the letter says. When the CRA sends out a letter, it's called a requirement to pay letter. It'll say, you are to garnish the wages of John Smith. And if you don't, we may audit you. May, which means they won't. But they say may. And Canadians are such cowards. Oh, I don't want to get audited, because they believe that you actually have to cooperate with an audit. So they just steal money from you, the employee. Well, this particular employer is going to be in a boatload of trouble. And when this particular employer figures out who I am, and I will send the employer every single article that's ever been written about me by the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, the Toronto Star, the Toronto Sun, the Vancouver Star, the Calgary Herald, the Montreal Gazette, every newspaper that has slandered me and called me racist and homophobic, Islamophobic, and everything else. I'm going to say, this is who you're now fighting against in the courts. Do you want this much negative press fighting you for my client? Or would you rather just give my client the dough that we're asking for and get me out of your hair forever? But they're stupid. You watch. You watch. They're not going to give in. So we'll take them to court, and we'll spend a great deal of time using them as a case study, as an example of why you should not do what the Canada Revenue Agency says. Because when the CRA sends out a requirement to pay letter, it is not a lawful command. It is not a court order. And you do not have to do anything in Canada that is not a court order. And if there is a court order presented against you, you can file a motion, an emergency motion that day, to have it stayed, which means paused, so that you can understand it and get legal representation and argue it properly. You can do all that. One of my friends had a really interesting solution to a problem like this. I shouldn't tell you about it, but it involved fists and it worked. So that's all I'm going to say. You know, all of you out there need to protect what you have. Use the courts first. Use the police second. If you need to do something crazy, always do that last. But you got to understand that when the CRA is taking your money and you can't feed your kids and your boss is cooperating, that's two enemies at war with you. You got to go to war back. You absolutely got to go to war back. Okay, it looks like we have our first troll of the night. So we're just going to have to ask you to go bye-bye. There we go. All right, everyone. We don't want trolls here, everybody. Come on, give us a break. We're talking about taxes and how you can save money, how it is you can live a better life in Canada and the United States. We don't need trolls. There we go. All right. Daddy's asking, what's it going to cost to set up the trust? Well, I can tell you right now, in Canada, any province at all, except we don't do Quebec because Quebec is crazy. The cost to get a numbered corporation opened up with the bylaws written for you is $1,250, which after tax is $1,412. That's it. That includes me writing the bylaws for you. Now, Daddy, that price is going to go up in 2025. Not by much, maybe $100, but our prices have to go up just a little bit in 2025. We are exhausted. We have taken on a lot of cases this year. No regrets. I do not ever complain about working hard. No, Daddy, wouldn't that be nice? No. Each corporation is going to be that price. But if you're setting up 5 corps, you're not going to pay the full retail price on each one. That becomes an actual package deal. So if you want to do 5 corps, you let me know. We'll get you one hell of a price on that and all the training that you need. For sure. Let's get all that done. All right, a couple more quick things here before I go. We've got about 5 minutes left in tonight's show, and this is the last Thursday night show for 2024. I'll be most likely doing some really cool live TikToks over the Christmas break. I would like you to see the malls and just how many Christmas decorations that there are here in lovely Panama City, the capital of Panama. My God, they love Christmas here. It is wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. User 96 for pricing. We're going to have pricing on my new website, which will be Kevin J. Johnston, my name, kevinjjohnston.com. There'll be a whole price list of all the services that we have, all the money services, all of the tax services and trust services. It'll all be listed there. And if anybody out there wants to get involved with us, if anybody is looking to make some damn good money working with me, I'll train you in how to sell what I do for a living and take 50% commissions on the profit margin of every single job. You can make some real bucks in taxes. And if I had known that taxes were this profitable to do, especially when you do massive volume of files, I would have started doing taxes when I was 12. My God, it is a remarkable industry. All right. All right. Thank you, Classic Garage. Merry Christmas to yourself as well. Last thing here, everybody. If you have corporate debt in Canada or the United States, whether it be CRA debt, IRS debt, payroll tax debt, GST debt, state tax debt, county debt, regional debt, municipal debt, fines, credit card debt, all corporate debt, I can buy it from you. I can take all of your debt away in a complete share sale. All right. It's a really good deal where you get to walk away from every debt that you have that's corporate. And you can do it now. It used to take a month to do. Now it takes 3 days to do. That's how quickly you can walk away from any amount. It could be 100 grand. It could be 100 million. It doesn't matter what the debt load is. So long as you are honest with me and you add all the corporate debts in there, I can take each and every one of them. Aria, what's the catch? Well, there's no catch. This is not a Ponzi scheme. There's no catch. It's just that whatever your debt load is, you're going to be paying my corporation 10% of the value of your debt load to take everything away from you. There you go. That's it. So whatever your debt is, you pay exactly 10%. That covers the lawyers, that covers the courts, it covers the disbursement fees, the couriers, it covers the CPA, it covers my time, it covers my team, it covers everything. You get to walk away from all of your corporate debt if you guys get a hold of me. Bruins 71, what's your fee to teach? You're in Panama till May. I live in Casco Viejo, so why don't you get a hold of me on my personal website? I got a couple really cool restaurants I like to go to on a regular basis. We can sit down and chat. I would love to meet you down here. My personal website, again, is kevinjjohnston.com or ME, whichever you prefer. There we go. Senna, last thing I'll say here. Never go corporately bankrupt because there's zero chance of a full discharge. It's going to cost you over 200 grand in most cases to go corporately bankrupt. The lawyers get rich, you get broke. It's a pointless endeavor. The only way to completely annihilate any and all of the debts that you have corporately is you have to sell the entire corporation, which I am only too happy to purchase from you. So get a hold of me on my personal website, everybody. That is going to be the best way to reach me and to start your new life completely and totally tax-free. I want to say thank you to everybody for watching every episode of this show. This is the Real Estate and Money Show with Kevin J. Johnston. It's been running now for just slightly over a year, and we've had a really good time doing all of this and meeting all of you. This will be the last one for 2024. We're going to be back in January. Don't worry about that. And God, man, this has been so much fun. I appreciate the emails. I appreciate the letters. I appreciate everything that you send me. It really is a blast to get all the kudos and thank yous from each and every one of you. I want to say Merry Christmas, everybody. Happy New Year. And we will see you in January. Have yourselves a great Christmas vacation. Good night.